He hated me as his wife until I took 2 bullets for him. For 3 years, Varo Dravik believed I betrayed him. He kept me in his mansion, wore our marriage like duty, and punished me with silence. Then a gunman aimed for him. I moved first. When I woke up, Varo was beside my bed, broken for the first time in his life. But I looked at him and whispered, "Who are you?" Everyone thought trauma had stolen my memory. They were wrong. I remembered everything. I just wanted to know what kind of man he would become when he thought the wife he hated had died still loving him. This is our story, let's begin. Chapter 1. Pain woke me before mercy did. It tore through my body in white-hot strips, sharp enough to make the darkness crack open behind my eyes. For one terrible second, I thought I was still falling, still hearing screams split the gala ballroom, still smelling gunpowder under perfume and expensive champagne, still feeling Varo Dravik's body slam backward beneath my hands while my own body took what had been meant for his. Then the world came back in pieces. A ceiling too white. A machine breathing beside me. Something cold taped to my wrist. The dull, steady beep of a monitor counting each second I remained alive, as if the room did not trust me to keep doing it on my own. I tried to inhale. Fire answered. My ribs seized, and a sound scraped out of me before I could swallow it down. The room moved. A chair scraped violently against marble. Nera. His voice. Low. Broken. Raw enough to make something inside me flinch before my eyes even opened. Varo. My husband. The man who had hated me so beautifully the whole world mistook it for control. I knew his voice better than I knew prayer. I knew the velvet edge of it when he gave orders. The quiet blade of it when he cut someone down without raising his volume. The frozen patience of it when he looked at me across our long dining table and made me feel like an intruder wearing his ring. But I had never heard him say my name like that. Like it had cost him blood. A hand closed around mine. Large. Warm. Trembling. Varo Dravik did not tremble. Not when men begged. Not when guns were drawn. Not when his family name was threatened in rooms full of wolves dressed as businessmen. But his fingers shook around mine like I was something slipping through them. I kept my eyes closed. Not because I was afraid of the pain. I had lived with pain for years. Some kinds did not need bullets. I kept them closed because the last thing I remembered was his face above mine, pale with a horror I had waited 3 years to see. Not love. No. I would not insult myself by calling it that. But loss. Varo had looked at me as if the world had finally taken something from him that he had not realized belonged in his hands. Nera. He said again. Softer this time. Open your eyes. Moya 10. My shadow. He had never called me that before. Not once in 3 years of marriage. Not when I stood beside him at funerals. Not when I signed alliance papers with my maiden name still bleeding beneath his. Not when I slept in the room across the hall from his and listened to the mansion breathe around us like a living thing. My shadow. The endearment landed inside me like a second bullet. I forced my lashes apart. Light stabbed my vision. I blinked against it, slow and weak, letting the room sharpen one cruel detail at a time. Private hospital suite. Not a public room. Of course not. Draviks did not bleed where ordinary people could see it. White walls. Black marble floor. Heavy curtains drawn tight against the outside world. 2 armed guards posted by the door. And him. Varo sat beside my bed, wearing the same black dress shirt from the gala, though it was no longer perfect. The collar was open. The sleeves were rolled. His dark hair was disordered like he had dragged his hands through it until the strands gave up pretending he was composed. There was blood on his cuff. My blood. His face looked carved from sleeplessness. Hard bones. Shadowed jaw. Mouth pressed into a line that tried to hold command and failed at the edges. His eyes, usually a deep, unreadable gray, were wrecked. That nearly undid me. Not because I trusted it. Because I had once dreamed of being looked at that way. Not in a hospital bed. Not with tubes in my arm and a wound under bandages. But across a breakfast table. In a hallway. Beside a fireplace during winter. Somewhere ordinary. Somewhere I had not needed to almost die to become visible. His thumb moved over my knuckles. Careful. Reverent. as if he had not spent years refusing to touch me unless a room full of people required the illusion. Nera, he whispered. Look at me. I did. And for one heartbeat. I hated myself because my body remembered wanting him before my pride could stop it. Varo Dravik was still beautiful in the way storms were beautiful. Dangerous even when still. Dark brows. Cruel mouth. Broad shoulders bent toward me like he had forgotten how to be untouchable. He smelled faintly of smoke, metal, and the expensive cedar cologne that used to linger in hallways long after he passed me without a word. My husband. My punishment. My oldest impossible want. I let my gaze stay blank. His fingers tightened. The monitor betrayed me with one sharper beep. His eyes flicked toward it. Varo noticed everything except the woman he married. The door opened before he could speak. A second man entered with the quiet confidence of someone who owned every room where people were too weak to object. Dr. Mail Corvin. He wore charcoal instead of white, because Mail had always understood that. Trust looked more expensive when it did not beg to appear pure. His silver blonde hair was combed neatly away from a narrow face. His hands were clean. Too clean. Surgeon's hands. Poisoner's hands. Hands that knew exactly how much pressure the body could survive. I had seen those hands close a file before Varo entered a room. I had seen those hands slide a vial into a locked drawer. I had seen those hands create the lie that turned my husband into my jailer. Nera, Mail said, voice smooth as glass over a blade. You're awake. Fear rose so fast I almost moved. Almost. Instead, I let my eyes drift toward him with the slow confusion of a woman returning from darkness. Varo noticed that too. He leaned closer, blocking part of Mail from my view like instinct had finally decided to arrive years late. She just opened her eyes. Mail's gaze dropped to Varo's hand wrapped around mine. Something unreadable passed behind his eyes. Then it disappeared beneath practiced concern. I can see that. He moved to the machines first. Not me. Numbers mattered more to Mail than faces. Numbers could be altered. Her pressure is elevated. She's in pain. I imagine so. 2 bullets tend to leave an impression. Varo went still. The room changed temperature. Even wounded. Even half drowned in medication and pretending not to know my own husband. I felt it. That silent warning in him. The one that made armed men lower their eyes. Mail did not lower his. He looked at me instead. Can you speak? Nera? I let my lips part. My throat felt like silk dragged over broken glass. No sound came. Varo moved before I could try again. He reached for the cup on the small table beside the bed, then stopped halfway. Stopped. Actually stopped. His gaze returned to me. To my face. To my mouth. To the fear I had trained myself not to show. May I? He asked. 2 words. Simple words. But they hit harder than the pain. Because Varo Dravik had never asked permission to enter a room, change a plan, dismiss my staff, freeze my accounts, decide which events I attended, or tell the world I was his wife while making sure I knew I was not his heart. May I? My fingers curled weakly against the sheet. For a dangerous second. I wanted to cry. Not because he had become kind. Because he had always known how. I gave the smallest nod. He lifted the straw to my lips with a care so intense it felt like another performance. Except no audience mattered here. Only Mail. Only guards. Only the machines. Water touched my tongue. I swallowed too quickly and pain ripped through my side. A gasp broke from me. Varo's jaw tightened. Enough. He set the cup down. But he did not release my hand. Mail watched us like a man studying a locked door for weaknesses. Nera. He's stepping closer. I need to ask you a few questions. Varo's head turned slightly. Now. She has head trauma, blood loss, and several hours under sedation. Mail replied. The sooner we assess cognitive response, the better. Varo's fingers pressed into mine, not painfully, but enough for me to feel the war inside him. He wanted to refuse. The old Varo would have. The old Varo would have made the room bend around his fear and called it protection. But this Varo looked down at me, and something shifted in his face. He was trying. I could see the effort. The unfamiliar restraint. The brutal discomfort of a man used to command, realizing the body in the bed had been harmed enough by decisions made over her. He swallowed. Then, ask her gently. Male's mouth almost smiled. Almost. Of course. Gently. As if he had not once stood in my bedroom while Varo was away and told me no one would believe a wife already dressed in suspicion. As if he had not advised rest when I tried to show Varo proof. As if he had not pressed 2 fingers to my pulse and murmured, "Careful, Nera. A frantic woman is so easy to diagnose." I stared at him. Blank. Hollow. Soft. The kind of woman men like Male expected wounded wives to become. He drew a small penlight from his pocket. Follow the light. I obeyed. Left. Right. The beam burned. But I did not blink too quickly. I gave him weakness, but not panic. Confusion, but not stupidity. A woman surfacing from trauma, not a woman hiding behind it. Good, Male said. Do you know where you are? I let my gaze move around the room. Curtains. Guards. Machines. Varo's face. Male's hands. My voice came out then. Hospital. Varo exhaled like that single word had held him hostage. Yes. Leaning closer. Private wing. You're safe. Safe. The word almost made me laugh. But laughing would tear stitches. And besides, I had learned long ago that some words only sounded beautiful when spoken by men who did not understand them. Male made a note on his tablet. Do you remember what happened? A ballroom flooded my mind. Crystal chandeliers. Varo's hand at the small of my back. There only because cameras were watching. His mouth near my ear. Voice low and cold. Do not mistake tonight for forgiveness. My own. Smile for the room. The glint above the balcony. The split-second decision. My palms hitting his chest. His eyes flashing with anger right before the first shot cracked through the music. No. I wanted to say. I remember nothing. Yes. I wanted to say. I remember saving a man who never once saved me. Instead, I stared at the ceiling until moisture gathered at the corners of my eyes from the effort. I don't know. Varo's face broken away, so small most people would have missed it. I did not. I had spent 3 years surviving on crumbs of his expression. I knew the difference between anger and guilt, between suspicion and shock, between disgust and the particular horror now burning through him. Male turned slightly toward Varo. That's not unusual. Varo did not look at him. His eyes stayed on me like leaving my face might cause me to vanish. Nera. His voice rough. You were shot. I let fear widen my eyes. A tremor moved through my body. Partly real. Shot. Even pretending. The word had teeth. Varo saw the tremor and instantly released my hand. As if his touch had caused it. That hurt too. Everything hurt. Who shot me? I whispered. His eyes darkened. We're finding out. That meant someone had not confessed. Someone had not been dragged bleeding into a Dravik basement yet. Someone had been clever enough to vanish after putting 2 bullets into the Don's wife. Or perhaps someone had never meant to kill me at all. Perhaps I had simply stepped into a death meant for Varo, and the universe had laughed at the irony. Male clicked the penlight off. Nera, do you know who I am? My gaze moved to him. Dr. Male Corvin. Varo's beloved physician. The man who could make poison look like infection and betrayal look like a wife's signature. The man who had stood beside my husband and handed him the proof that destroyed me. I let my brow furrow. No, a shadow passed over Male's face so quickly it might have been satisfaction. I'm Dr. Corvin. I've treated the Dravik family for many years. Dravik. He placed the name between us like bait. I did not take it. Dravik. I repeated faintly. Varo stopped breathing. I felt it more than heard it. The way the room pulled tight around him. The way his grief became something sharper. Male looked at him. Memory fragmentation can be selective. Varo's voice came out low. What does that mean? It means she may remember some things and not others. People. Places. Emotional attachments. Trauma can create gaps around the event itself or around stressful associations. Stressful associations. That was what they would call my marriage now. Not a cage. Not a sentence. Not a slow drowning. A stressful association. I turned my face slightly toward Varo because I knew it would hurt him. Are you Dravik? For a second. He looked as if I had struck him. Then he leaned in, elbows braced on his knees. All that lethal power folded into stillness at my bedside. Yes. I waited. He seemed to understand what I was asking before I asked it. His throat moved. His eyes searched mine for some flicker, some recognition, some mercy I had not agreed to give. I'm Varo. I stared at him. His name lived inside me like a scar. Varo. The man I had married beneath black roses and candlelight while both our families watched like the altar was a negotiation table. Varo. Who had lifted my veil with hands that did not shake. Varo. Who had kissed my cheek instead of my mouth. Varo. Who had whispered, "Do not expect tenderness from me, Nera. That died before you arrived." I had arrived anyway. Young enough to hope. Proud enough to hide it. Now he waited for me to know him. I gave him nothing. I'm sorry. I whispered. I don't. The words frayed. His face emptied. I had imagined hurting him before. Not often. I had not allowed myself the luxury. Hatred required energy, and survival had taken most of mine. But in the loneliest hours of that mansion, when the moon turned my bedroom silver and I could hear him return from whatever woman or war or meeting had kept him from home, I had imagined him feeling 1 inch of what I carried. I had imagined him reaching for me and finding air. I had imagined him calling my name and receiving silence. I had not imagined it would feel like this. Not sweet. Not victorious. More like pressing my thumb into a bruise and discovering the bruise still belonged to me. Varo lowered his head. Only for a second. But it was enough. The dawn bowed at my bedside, and no one in the room knew what to do with it. Male did. He watched. Always watching. Varo. You should prepare yourself. This may not return quickly. Varo looked up. How much? There is no way to know yet. How much did she lose? Memory isn't a ledger. Varo's eyes sharpened. Do not talk to me like I'm one of your students. There he was. A glimpse of the man everyone feared. Male accepted the rebuke with a slight dip of his head. She may recover pieces. She may recover all of it. Or she may retain only what her mind feels safe keeping. Safe keeping. My mind had kept everything. Every cruelty labeled and filed. Every dismissed warning. Every glance from guards who thought me traitor. Every dinner where Varo sat across from me and never asked why my hands were shaking. Every night I touched the wedding ring on my finger and wondered how a thing so small could weigh more than a chain. Male stepped closer to my bed. Too close. Varo noticed. Enough for now. I need one more question. No, the word cracked through the room. The guards by the door straightened. Male's expression did not change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. This question matters. Varo stood. The movement was slow. Dangerous. A black tide rising. She just woke up after taking 2 bullets. You can finish later. Male held his ground, but his gaze slid to me. There it was. The real reason he wanted one more question. Not medicine. Not concern. Confirmation. He suspected there was a locked room inside me, and he wanted to hear whether his name was still hidden there. Nera. Ignoring Varo's warning just enough to be brave and not enough to be foolish. Do you know your full name? The room went silent. Varo did not move. Neither did I. Such a simple question. Such a perfect knife. My full name. The one I had been born with. The one they took. The one Varo gave me in a chapel thick with incense, blood treaties, and lies. Nera Solenne had belonged to herself. Nera Dravik had belonged to a man who thought she was poison. I let confusion soften my face. Let my mouth tremble. Let the machine speak faster for me. Because that part required no acting at all. Varo stepped closer to the bed. His voice lowered to something almost gentle. You know your name. Nera. Do I? The answer burned behind my teeth. I looked at him. Really looked. At the sleepless ruin of him. The blood on his cuff. The bruise forming across his cheek where I had shoved him down hard enough to save his life. The wedding ring still on his hand. A ring he wore with more loyalty than he had ever given the woman it bound him to. For one impossible second, I saw the man I had wanted instead of the man I had survived. Then Male said, "Nera?" And the softness in me died the way it always had. Quietly, I turned my face away from Varo and looked straight at the doctor who had ruined my life. "My name," I whispered, "is Nera Solenne." Varo went utterly still. Not angry. Not confused. Worse. Wounded. The room held its breath around him while my maiden name settled between us like a body neither of us could bury. The silence after my name did more damage than a scream would have. Varo did not step back. He did not curse. Did not demand. Did not turn on Male with the violence tightening every line of his body. He simply stood there, staring at me as if I had reached into his chest and removed something he had not known was still alive. Nera Solenne. Not Dravik. Not his. The machines kept counting. One beat. Another. Another. Male was the first to move. He lowered his tablet with deliberate calm, but I saw the satisfaction tucked behind his careful eyes. He had wanted a wound. I had given him one. Not the wound he suspected. Maybe. Not proof that I remembered. But enough to open Varo in front of him. Selective identity retention. Male voice quiet and clinical. Not unusual after severe trauma. She may remember her name from before the marriage because it is rooted in childhood memory. More recent emotional attachments may be harder for her to access. Emotional attachments. Varo's gaze did not leave mine. She remembers Solenne. It was not a question. Male folded his hands in front of him. Yes. But not Dravik. Apparently not. A muscle jumped in Varo's jaw. For a moment, he looked less like a dawn and more like a man standing barefoot in broken glass, trying not to bleed where anyone could see. I should not have cared. I had promised myself I would not care. The woman who cared had been locked in a bedroom across the hall from his for 3 years, waiting for footsteps that passed her door every night. The woman who cared had written letters she never sent because every apology she imagined from him sounded like fiction. The woman who cared had stepped between Varo and death before she could stop herself. That woman should have died under the chandeliers. Instead, she lay in this bed, wearing bandages like proof. Varo's hand flexed at his side. "Leave us." Male looked at him. "I do not recommend." I said leave. The guards by the door shifted. Male's mouth softened into something that tried to pass for patience. "She has just regained consciousness. Emotional stress can be dangerous." Varo turned then. Slowly. Every inch of the room seemed to bend toward him. "You have been her doctor for 5 minutes since she opened her eyes." His voice low enough to freeze blood. "I have been her husband for 3 years." The word struck me in the ribs harder than the bullets. Husband. He said it as if the title was sacred. Where had that reverence been when I needed it? Male did not flinch, but I saw the faint tightening near his eyes. He did not like Varo claiming ground Male had spent years poisoning. "Of course. But if she becomes agitated, you will be called. I should remain nearby. You will remain outside the door." There was no raised voice. No threats spoken plainly. But everyone in that room understood that Varo Dravik had just drawn a line, and men who crossed his lines tended not to do so twice. Male inclined his head. "As you wish." His gaze slid to me before he turned away. Only a second. Only long enough to make my skin go cold beneath the sheets. Because there was no concern in that look now. There was suspicion. He knew me too well. Not my heart. Not my grief. Men like Male never studied those things unless they could be used as symptoms. But he knew fear. He knew pulse. He knew how a person's eyes betrayed what the mouth tried to bury. And I had looked at him too steadily. Just once. Enough. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded too much like a lock. Varo remained standing. I could feel him trying to decide what a husband was allowed to do with a wife who did not remember being his wife, or pretended not to. He took one step toward me, then stopped himself. That nearly ruined me more than if he had touched me without asking, because the old Varo had never stopped at the edge of my fear. He had stepped over it, through it, around it. He had treated my discomfort like background noise beneath matters of family, blood, loyalty, reputation. Now he stood beside my bed with his hands empty and his face stripped raw, and he did not know how to reach for me without becoming the man I was trying to forget. "I won't hurt you." The words were so quiet I almost wished I had not heard them. My throat tightened. Too late, I thought. But I let my face remain uncertain. My breathing shallow. My eyes moving over him like he was a stranger with power over my life. "Are we married?" The question broke something. Not loudly. It moved through him like a crack-splitting marble beneath water. "Yes." The answer came out rough. I looked down at my left hand. The ring was still there. A Dravik wife could nearly die, but no one would remove the symbol of ownership unless the husband allowed it. Black diamond. Thin gold band. Custom made. Beautiful enough to distract from the prison it represented. I touched it with the pad of my thumb. Varo watched the movement as if my fingers were at his throat. "I don't remember the wedding." His eyes darkened, but I remembered every second. The heavy veil. The old chapel. His hand cold around mine. His mouth near my ear after the vows. This marriage protects both families. Do not mistake it for more. I remembered going to my wedding bed alone. I remembered waking the next morning still untouched. Still hopeful in the stupidest, softest corner of my heart. Varo's voice pulled me back. It was in the old chapel on the North Estate. I kept my gaze on the ring. Was it beautiful? He did not answer quickly enough. That was answer enough. Finally, he said, "Yes." Something inside me laughed without sound. Beautiful. Maybe from far away. Maybe if you ignored the groom's hatred and the bride's trembling hands. I lifted my eyes to him. "Did I love you?" There it was. The blade neither of us was ready to hold. Varo went completely still. He had been asked questions by killers, by judges, by dying men, by enemies bargaining with their last breath. None of them had ever done this to him. His lips parted, but no sound came. For the first time since I had known him, Varo Dravik looked afraid of the truth. I should have spared him. That was the disease of loving someone cruel. Even after they starved you, some starving part of you still wanted to feed them mercy. But I was tired of starving. Did I? I asked again. Softer. His eyes shone with something he would have murdered another man for noticing. Yes. The word was almost inaudible. I let it sit there. Then I asked, "Did you love me?" The room seemed to lose air. Varo's face changed. Not guilt this time. Devastation. He looked toward the window, toward the heavy curtains, toward a world that had no answer waiting for him. When his gaze came back to mine, the man behind the dawn was worse than broken. He was honest. And honesty came years late. I should have. My heart did something foolish and wounded. It reached. Just once. Then I crushed it flat. That is not what I asked. His throat moved. No. A clean answer. A cruel one. A merciful one. In its own terrible way. He did not try to perfume the past for the woman he thought had lost it. Maybe that was the first decent thing he had done for me in years. I turned my face away before my eyes could betray me. The machines quickened anyway. Damn them. Varo heard it. His attention snapped to the monitor. Then back to me. "Nera. I'm tired." The words came out thin. But they were true. I was exhausted past bone. Not only from blood loss. From surviving the nearness of him. From pretending not to know the shape of his remorse. From lying in front of the man who had taught me silence and realizing silence had become the sharpest weapon I owned. He reached toward me. Stopped. His hand hovered over the blanket near my arm. Fingers curling once before he withdrew them. "I'll call Corvin." Panic moved before thought. My hand caught his sleeve. Weakly. Barely. But he froze as if I had shackled him. The blood on his cuff brushed my knuckles. His eyes dropped to where I held him. So did mine. I had not meant to touch him. My body had chosen before my mind could punish it. Because male outside the door was not just a doctor. He was memory with a pulse. He was proof that monsters did not always carry guns. Sometimes they carried sedatives and spoke gently enough that powerful men trusted them. Varo slowly looked back at me. "You don't want him?" The question was careful. Too careful. He had noticed. I loosened my grip immediately, but pain punished the movement and my breath caught. Varo stepped closer without touching me. His entire body seemed to wage war against itself. Nera, he said. Lower. Look at me. I did not. Nera. The way he said my name now was different from before. Not an order. Not even a plea. Something between both. Something dangerous because it almost sounded like devotion learning how to crawl. I looked. His eyes searched mine. Are you afraid of him? The room tilted. There were moments in life when survival became a blade balanced on one finger. Too much truth. And you bled. Too little. And someone else did. Male had framed me once when I had the full force of my memory. My pride. My name. And my desperate honesty. What would he do now? With me half-stitched and trapped in a bed. I let confusion ripple across my face. I don't know him. Varo's gaze sharpened. That was not an answer. And he knew it. But it was the only answer I could safely give. His jaw hardened. For a heartbeat, the old Varo appeared, not cold toward me, but lethal for me. The distinction was so new it hurt to look at. You will not be alone with him. Possessive. Immediate. Instinctive. A year ago, I would have fed myself on that sentence for weeks. Now I heard the danger in it too. Another decision made over me. Another lock shaped like protection. My fingers tightened in the sheet. Do I get a say? His face went blank. Not with anger. With realization. It landed between us so heavily that even the monitor seemed to pause. I watched him understand. Not all of it. Not enough. But a piece. That there must have been a reason I asked that question like a woman bracing for a door to close. That maybe his protection had not always felt different from captivity. His voice changed when he answered. Yes. I did not believe him. He saw that too. The disbelief hit him harder than accusation would have. Varo pulled the chair closer again. But he did not sit until he asked. May I stay? The question was a knife disguised as kindness. Because I wanted to say no. Because I wanted to say yes. Because both answers belonged to a woman I no longer trusted. I looked at the door where Male had gone, then at the guards beyond it, then at the husband beside me, who had not loved me but had not left my bed either. For now, I whispered. Varo lowered into the chair as if those two words were more mercy than he deserved. Maybe they were. He stayed at a careful distance, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, far enough that the space between us became another witness. For several moments, neither of us spoke. The pain medicine dragged at the edges of my thoughts, but fear kept me awake. Male's gaze lingered in my mind. The way he had watched when I said Solenne. The way he had measured Varo's ruin and my stillness. He would come back. Men like Male did not retreat. They adjusted. Varo leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles paled. I need to tell you something. I turned my head slowly. He looked at me with a kind of torment that did not belong in a man like him. There are things about our marriage that were... He stopped, as if the words disgusted him before they even existed. Complicated. Almost. I almost laughed. Complicated was a dress that did not fit. A dinner seating arrangement. A business merger with too many lawyers. Our marriage had not been complicated. It had been a sentence handed down by a man who believed himself judge, jailer, and wounded party. I did something to upset you? His eyes closed. Just for a breath. No. Lie. Then he opened them. And the lie died before it could stand. Yes. That answer scraped over my heart. I hurt you. The machines hummed. My body went painfully still. He was not supposed to say it yet. Not now. Not while I still had the safety of pretending. Not while my anger could hide behind the white bandages and the blank eyes of a woman without a past. Varo looked down at his own hands. I believe something about you. Something I had no right to believe without letting you speak. My lungs tightened. No. Do not confess now. Do not make me feel the shape of your remorse before I am strong enough to hate you properly. I was told you betrayed my family. He continued. I was told you gave information to men who wanted us dead. He did not say Male's name, but the room seemed to sharpen around it anyway. And did I whispered. His gaze lifted. The old Varo would have said yes before I finished asking. This Varo looked ruined by the absence of certainty. I don't know anymore. There. The first crack in the tomb he had built around me. Not innocence. Not apology. But doubt. 3 years late. I let my eyes fill slowly, because tears were useful and because these were real. You hated me? He flinched. A small movement. But it went through him like punishment. Yes. The truth should have satisfied me. It did not. Why keep me? His mouth tightened. Because the alliance needed our marriage. Bloodlines. Treaties. Men signing women into cages and calling it peace. And because, he added, voice rougher, I was too angry to let you go where I could not see you. My heart gave one hard, traitorous beat. There he was in full. Not noble. Not soft. Possessive even in hatred. He had kept me because the family required it. And because some part of him would rather punish me within reach than lose me beyond it. I let the tears slip. His entire body reacted as if I had blood again. Nera. I turned my face into the pillow. Please don't call me that like you care. The words left me before I could stop them. Too sharp. Too informed. Too much like a memory. Varo stopped breathing. I felt the mistake immediately. The room became dangerous. Not because he would hurt me. Because he had heard the woman beneath the amnesia. Slowly. Painfully. I looked back. His eyes were locked on mine. Not confused now. Not grieving. Searching. My pulse ran wild beneath the monitor's betrayal. For several seconds. He said nothing. Then his voice dropped so low the guards outside could not possibly hear. What did you say? I swallowed. Pain cut through my side. But fear was worse. I don't know. I made my voice tremble. I'm tired. I don't know why I said that. Varo did not move. He studied me the way he studied enemies across negotiation tables. Except this was worse. Enemies did not know the taste of his name in the dark. Enemies had not once loved him with a patience. That became self-destruction. His gaze moved over my face, my mouth, my eyes. I kept myself open. Frightened. Fragile. A woman lost. Not a wife hiding. The door opened. Male entered without knocking. He had timed it perfectly, or he had been listening. Both were possible. Varo turned his head, and the air went black around him. I did not call you. No. Male said smoothly, carrying a small syringe and a capped vial on a tray. But her monitor spiked. She needs rest before stress compromises the sutures. My blood chilled. The vial was clear. It could have been pain medicine. It could have been something else. With Male, the difference was never in the liquid. It was in the intention. Varo stood between him and the bed. What is that? A mild sedative. No. Male paused. She needs sleep. She needs to know what you are putting in her body before you touch her. That sentence struck me silent. Varo did not look back at me when he said it. Maybe he could not. Maybe he knew if he saw my face, he would see how badly that small decency wounded me. Male's fingers tightened around the tray. Since when do you question my treatment? Varo's voice went cold. Since my wife woke up afraid in a room where you were the only man smiling. Male's expression did not change. But the room felt suddenly smaller. He looked past Varo at me. And this time, he did not bother hiding the warning. Nera, he said gently. You understand, don't you? Pain and confusion can make the mind invent enemies. My mouth went dry. There it was. The trap. If I showed fear, I looked unstable. If I said nothing, Varo might trust him. If I accused him, Male would turn my fake amnesia into proof that I was broken, unreliable, dangerous. Varo glanced back at me, not commanding, asking, in front of Male, giving me the choice. My fingers curled around the blanket. This was how freedom came at first. Then, not as an open door, as one terrifying chance to speak. I looked at the syringe, then at Male, then at Varo. I don't want him to give it to me, I whispered. Varo's face changed. Something ancient and lethal woke in him. He turned back to Male. You heard her. Male's voice cooled by 1 degree. Varo, be careful. Attachment guilt after trauma can cloud judgment. Attachment guilt. He made Varo's grief sound like a symptom. He made my fear sound like confusion. He made every truth wear the costume of illness. Varo stepped closer to him. Not fast. Not loud. Worse. Controlled. He murmured, "You heard my wife." For the first time, Male looked at him as if he had miscalculated. Only for a second. But I saw it. So did Varo. The two men stared at each other, and the years between them shifted. Trust. Loyalty. History. Secrets. Male had saved Varo's life once. He had stood at Dravik funerals. He had written the reports that condemned me. He had built himself into the walls of this family so thoroughly that removing him would mean tearing out stone. Varo reached for the tray. Male did not let go. The guards moved inside the room. Varo's voice did not rise. Release it. Male smiled faintly. A doctor's smile. Clean. Calm. Deadly. As you wish. He let Varo take the tray. Varo handed it to one of the guards without looking away from Male. Have another physician verify everything she has been given since the surgery. Male went still. So did I. The order landed like a gunshot. Not full truth. Not justice. But suspicion. Real suspicion. Against Male. The first living thing I had seen in 3 years that resembled hope. Male's eyes narrowed slightly. That is unnecessary. Then it should not trouble you. A long silence stretched. I watched Male choose his mask again. Concern. Professional insult. Quiet dignity. All lies. Paranoia will not help her recovery. No. Varo replied. But it may help her survive it. My breath caught. I could not stop it this time. Varo heard. His shoulders stiffened. But he did not turn. Male looked at me. And in his eyes, beneath the polished calm, I saw the promise. He knew. Maybe not everything. But enough. Enough to understand that the woman in the bed was not as empty as she pretended to be. Enough to know he had become a danger to me. Enough to know I had become one to him. Varo pointed to the door. Leave. Male's gaze lingered on mine for one final second. Then he inclined his head. Rest well, Mrs. Dravik. The name slithered across the room. Not Nera. Not Solenne. Mrs. Dravik. A reminder. A threat. A cage with polished bars. The door closed behind him. This time, Varo sent both guards after him. Do not let Corvin near this room unless I am present. He ordered. One guard hesitated. Sir. He is the family physician. Varo turned his head. The guard paled. He is a man with a key. Keys can be taken. The guards left. Then we were alone. Truly alone. The room did not feel safer. It felt more intimate, which was far more dangerous. Varo stood near the foot of the bed, staring at the closed door like he was seeing the outline of a monster he had invited into every private room of his life. For the first time, I wondered what would happen when Varo Dravik stopped hating me long enough to hate himself. He turned back slowly. His eyes found mine. Whatever he saw there made his expression tighten. He frightens you. I looked away. I said I don't know him. You know fear. My throat closed. He came closer, stopping beside the bed. Not touching. Not trapping. But near enough that his shadow fell over my blanket. Dark and familiar. I know what fear looks like on people who have reason to hide it. Yes, I thought. You saw it in mirrors for years and called it guilt. His voice lowered. Did he hurt you? The question nearly split me open. Not because I could answer. Because some part of me had waited years for him to ask any version of it. Did he hurt you? Did they hurt you? Did I? I looked at his hand resting on the rail of the bed. The wedding ring glinted against his skin. I'm tired. I whispered again. This time, it was not a shield. It was surrender to exhaustion. Varo absorbed the refusal, and I watched him choose not to force more from me. Another small mercy. Another late one. He reached toward the blanket, then stopped as if the air itself had warned him. May I fix this? The blanket had slipped low near my wounded shoulder. I had not noticed. Pain had made my body feel distant. like something I was borrowing badly. I nodded. He moved with a care that did not suit him. Or maybe it did. And he had simply withheld it from me so long that seeing it now felt like watching a locked room open. His fingers barely touched the edge of the blanket. He drew it up over me, slow enough that the fabric did not pull against the bandage. His knuckles brushed the inside of my wrist. Barely a touch. Nothing like the violence of wanting. Nothing like the cold public hand at my waist. Still, my breath changed. So did his. His gaze dropped to my mouth for one devastating second before he looked away as if the glance had shamed him. Good. Let shame teach him restraint. He stepped back. I will find another doctor. Someone outside the family. I blinked slowly, letting my face show confusion where my mind sharpened. Outside the family meant outside Mail's reach. Maybe. Unless Mail had reached farther than even I knew. Will he be angry? Varo understood who I meant. His mouth hardened. He can be whatever he wants outside your door. Your door. Not my door. Not our door. Yours. I hated that those details mattered. I hated that I collected them like a starving woman collecting crumbs. The pain medicine already in my veins dragged harder now, pulling the ceiling soft at the edges. My body wanted sleep. My mind fought it like sleep was a room Mail could enter. Varo noticed. I'll stay awake. I did not ask him to. Maybe that was why the promise hurt. No one comes in unless you say so or unless your vitals crash. If you wake and want me gone, I go. If you wake and want the guards gone, I replace them with women from outside my household. If you want the ring removed, I will call a jeweler to cut it off without touching your hand. The ring. My fingers twitched. He saw. Pain flashed across his face, but he did not take the words back. You get to choose. Each word sounding like it cost him more than blood. From now on, the most dangerous kind of promise. The kind that asked a ruined woman to imagine a future. I closed my eyes before he could see how badly I wanted to believe him. Darkness welcomed me, but memory came with it. The ballroom. The gun. Varo's eyes when I shoved him. The first bullet tearing heat through my shoulder. The second punching the breath from my chest. His arms catching me before the floor could, but my head hit his shoulders so hard I saw black dots. His voice. Not cold then. Never cold then. Stay with me. Nera. Stay. Look at me. Look at me. Moya 10. I order you to stay. Even dying. I had almost smiled. Because only Varo Dravik would try to command blood back into a body. His voice reached me now from the edge of sleep. You saved my life. I kept my eyes closed. A tear slipped anyway. His breath changed. He saw it. I don't know why. And the ruin in him was almost too much to bear. But you did. You know why. I thought. You just forgot what love looked like when it stopped begging. The mattress dipped slightly near my hand. Not with his body. Only his fingers. He placed something beside me on the sheet. Not touching my skin. I waited until I heard him settle back into the chair before I opened my eyes a sliver. My wedding ring still sat on my finger. But beside my hand lay another ring. His. Varo had taken off his own wedding band and placed it where I could see it. A surrender. A punishment. A promise without words. You do not have to wear mine, he said into the quiet. Until you know whether you want my name. My vision blurred. Not from the drugs. From the cruelty of being offered freedom by the man who had taught me I would never have it. He thought I did not remember the years. He thought he was speaking to a woman with an empty past and a broken mind. He thought mercy now could meet me before memory did. But memory was already there. It sat inside my chest with its hands folded, watching him bleed. I let my eyes close again. I let my breathing even out. I let Varo Dravik believe I had drifted back into sleep. Only then did I allow the truth to rise fully inside me, cold and bright in mine. I remembered the wedding. I remembered the accusations. I remembered Mail Corvin's smile. I remembered every door Varo closed. I remembered every night I stayed. I remembered loving my husband so much that when death came for him, my body moved before my pride could stop it. And when I woke up, I chose the only revenge that did not require a gun. I erased him. Not from my mind. from my life. Because Varo Dravik had spent 3 years teaching me how to survive without his love. Now I would find out what kind of man he became when he thought the wife he hated had died still loving him.
Chapter 2. I brought my wife home to a house that had never loved her. That was the first thing I saw. Not the marble. Not the black iron gates. Not the guards lined along the drive with their hands clasped behind their backs and their eyes lowered in respect they had never offered her. I saw the house. The cold width of it. The polished stone. The windows tall enough to look like judgment. The front steps she had climbed beside me for 3 years while I walked half a pace ahead of her and called it habit. Nera sat beside me in the back of the car. Wrapped in a cream coat the hospital had arranged over her shoulders because her left arm still could not move without pain. She looked smaller than she ever had in my house. And that made no sense because she had always been slight, elegant, quiet. The kind of woman men underestimated until they found themselves bleeding from places they thought were protected. But now there was something fragile in the way she held herself. Or maybe I was only finally seeing the damage. Her fingers rested in her lap. No ring on her hand. Mine was still in my pocket. I had taken it off beside her hospital bed and had not put it back on. I did not deserve the weight of it. Not while she looked at me like a stranger. Not while she remembered Solenne but not Dravik. Or pretended not to. The thought had been circling me since the hospital. I hated it. Not because it angered me. Because a part of me understood why she might choose it. The car stopped at the front entrance. Nera's gaze lifted to the mansion. Nothing moved across her face. No recognition. No fear. No hatred. That was worse. I had seen fear in her before. I had called it guilt because it suited me. I had seen the way she paused before entering rooms where my men stood. I had seen the way her shoulders tightened at dinner when a servant placed her plate down too hard. I had seen her stillness when I entered the library and she closed whatever book she had been reading as if being caught in peace was a crime. I had seen all of it. I had named none of it correctly. "Is this yours?" she asked. Her voice was soft from injury. It scraped through me anyway. "Ours," I almost said. The lie stopped at my teeth. "Yes." She nodded once, as if accepting the answer to a question that meant nothing. The driver opened my door. I stepped out first, then turned toward her side before anyone else could touch it. When her door opened, she looked at my hand. Not my face, my hand. The hesitation was so small no one else would have caught it. But I caught everything now. Every flinch, every pause, every breath she swallowed before it could become pain. "May I help you?" The guards heard me. So did the driver. I felt their surprise ripple like weakness across the stone drive. Let them hear. Let every man who had watched me treat her like an obligation learn the shape of my shame. Nera stared at my hand for another second. Then she placed her fingers in mine. Her skin was cold. I hated myself for knowing that and not knowing whether her hands had always been cold in this house. She stepped carefully from the car. Pain flashed across her face, quick and white, before she buried it. I moved instinctively. She stiffened. I stopped. The space between us became a blade. "I won't grab you," I said, low enough for only her. Her lashes lifted. There was something in her eyes I could not name. Not trust. Not relief. Memory, maybe. Or accusation. "Thank you," she whispered. 2 polite words. I would rather she had struck me. The front doors opened before we reached them. Marta stood inside, hands folded over her black dress. She had been the head housekeeper since my father's time. Efficient, loyal, severe. Her eyes touched Nera's pale face, the sling hidden beneath the coat, the careful way she leaned more weight on her right side. Then Marta looked at me. "Welcome home, sir." Not madam. Not Mrs. Dravik. Not Nera. My wife noticed. I felt it in her hand before I saw it on her face. The smallest withdrawal. A quiet folding inward. For 3 years, I had thought silence meant indifference. Now I understood that silence could be a room filling with blood. I turned to Marta. Again. The housekeeper blinked. "Sir? You will greet my wife." Color drained from her face. The entry hall went still. 2 guards behind us stopped breathing. The driver lowered his eyes. Somewhere upstairs, a maid froze with a stack of linens in her arms. Marta swallowed. "Welcome home, Mrs. Dravik." Nera's fingers tightened in mine. Not with comfort, with pain. Because that name hurt her now. Maybe it always had. I looked down at her. But she did not look at me. She stared at the staircase, the chandelier, the long corridor leading toward the rooms we had never shared. "Would you prefer Nera?" I asked quietly. Her eyes came to mine. The hall was full of ears. I did not care. Her answer mattered more than their shock. She looked lost for one perfect, devastating second. Then her mask returned, gentle and blank. I don't know what I prefer. A simple sentence. A punishment. I faced the staff gathering at the edges of the hall. Until she decides. You will address her as Mrs. Dravik or Miss Nera. You will not speak around her as if she is furniture. You will not stare. You will not whisper. You will not decide what she can hear or know. If she asks a question, you answer it. If she asks for space, you give it. If she asks for me, you find me. No one moved. I let my gaze sweep over them. And if I learn anyone in this house has treated her with disrespect before today, you have until midnight to confess it to Dima. After that, I find out myself. Fear moved through the hall. It was late, but fear was a language my house understood. Nera pulled her hand gently from mine. The loss of her touch was absurdly violent. I'm tired, she said. Your room is ready. Her gaze flicked toward the stairs. My room. The question split me open. My room. Not ours. She had not remembered the separate bedroom at the hospital. Now I had to explain it at the foot of the staircase while every wall in this house listened. I dismissed the staff with one look. They scattered. Only Dima remained near the door, my most trusted guard, his broad face carefully blank. Your recovery room. Nera studied me. Was it my room before? I had led men into war with less dread than I felt in that moment. Yes. She looked toward the corridor again. And yours. Across the hall. The silence that followed did not belong in a house this large. It should have had space to disappear. Instead, it stood between us like a witness. Nera nodded. No tears. No accusation. Just that calm, distant acceptance. As if a wife waking without memory could still understand the shape of a marriage by its floor plan. I see. I wished she had screamed. I wished she had asked me what kind of husband put his wife across the hall and called it marriage. But Nera had always been more dangerous quiet. I reached for her bag from the driver. I'll walk you up. She did not argue. Maybe because the stairs frightened her. Maybe because I did. Dima stepped forward. Boss? Dr. Corvin called twice. He wants confirmation she arrived without incident. Nera's head turned slightly. There. A flash. Tiny. Gone almost before it appeared. But I saw it. My wife, who did not remember me, reacted to Corvin's name like a blade had touched her spine. Tell him nothing. Dima's eyes narrowed. Not in challenge, but surprise. Nothing? Nothing. Nera's gaze lowered. I wondered how many times she had lowered her eyes in this house so no one would see what the truth cost her. Dima nodded. Yes, boss. I guided Nera upstairs without touching her unless she reached for the railing and wavered. Twice she stopped to breathe through pain. Twice I nearly lifted her into my arms. Twice I did not. The restraint felt like tearing muscle from bone. When we reached the second floor, her eyes moved to the closed door at the far end of the hall. My room. She looked at it too long. You sleep there? She asked. Yes. And I sleep here? She turned toward the room prepared for her. Her room had always been beautiful. I knew that in the detached way a man knew the value of art he had bought and never studied. Pale walls. Tall windows. Soft rugs. A sitting area near the fireplace. Bookshelves she had filled herself because I had never asked what she read. A dressing room. A balcony overlooking the winter garden. It should have looked like luxury. Today it looked like evidence. Nera stepped inside slowly. I stayed at the threshold. She noticed. You can come in. I heard what she did not say. It is your house anyway. I entered, but only a few steps. Her gaze traveled across the bed. The neatly folded blankets. The vase of white flowers on the table. White roses. My stomach tightened. White roses had been at our wedding. I had not ordered them. Someone on staff had, trying to be tasteful. Or cruel. In this house, the two had often looked the same. Remove those. A maid near the dressing room jolted. Sir? The flowers. Now. Nera looked at me. I could not explain in front of the maid that my wife had walked through white roses toward a groom who had already decided not to love her. The maid took the vase and hurried out. Nera watched her go. Do I dislike roses? I looked at the empty table. You had them at our wedding. She absorbed that. And you removed them? I thought they might upset you. Because I don't remember the wedding? The lie in the room breathed. Because I do. Her eyes came to mine. For a moment, there was nothing blank in them. Something alive looked back at me. Sure. Wounded. Gone. She turned toward the bookshelves. These are mine. Yes. She touched the spine of a dark green book with her uninjured hand. Her fingers knew where to go. Third shelf. Right side. The poetry collection with the cracked spine. My chest tightened. She remembered, or her body did. Said nothing. She slid the book out halfway, then paused as if realizing she had moved with too much certainty. Carefully, she pushed it back. What kind of person was I, she asked. Was not am. I deserve that too. I looked at the woman standing in a room I had mistaken for adequate because it had silk sheets and locked windows no one called locked. You were quiet. Her mouth curved faintly, without humor. That sounds like something people say when they did not know someone. The blow was clean. I accepted it. You read late. You took your coffee with cinnamon. You hated the blue sitting room because the windows stuck in winter. You kept the garden alive after the frost killed half of it. You played piano when you thought the house was empty. Her fingers stilled on the shelf. I had not known I knew these things until they left my mouth. That was the cruelty of it. I had collected her in secret while denying her in public. Nera did not turn around. Did you listen? Yes. Did I know? No, she nodded once. The word she did not say filled the room. Coward. A knock sounded at the door. Nera flinched. I turned. What? Dima opened the door, but he did not step inside. A physician is here. Dr. Anika Reeve. Independent. She brought a nurse. Fast. Good. I had called from the car. Nera's face shifted with uncertainty. Not Dr. Corvin? No. Will he know? Yes. Her fingers curled into her palm. I hated the fear. I hated that it was familiar to her. I hated that I had spent years teaching my house to distrust her and 1 hour learning to distrust the man who had guided my hand. I want you to meet Dr. Reeve. If you dislike her, she leaves. If you want a woman guard inside the door, you get one. If you want me outside, I go. She looked at me for a long time, searching for the trap. That was what destroyed me. Not her anger. Not her false memory loss. Not even the Solenne name. The fact that every kindness I offered had to be inspected for teeth. Stay, she said at last. One word. I nearly closed my eyes. I did not deserve the relief. Dr. Reeve entered with a compact black medical bag and a nurse beside her. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with graying hair pinned low and no visible fear of me. That alone made me like her. Mrs. Dravik, she said, looking at Nera first. Not me. I'm Dr. Reeve. I was asked to review your medications and surgical notes. May I examine you? Nera glanced at me. Not for permission. Forewarning. I gave none. This is your decision. Dr. Reeve's eyes flicked briefly to me, then back to Nera. Nera nodded. Yes. I turned toward the door. You can stay, Nera said. Then, quieter. By the window. She wanted distance. She wanted witness. She wanted me where she could see me. I moved to the window. The examination took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of watching another doctor carefully explain every touch before she made it. 15 minutes of seeing Nera's body brace at ordinary medical contact. 15 minutes of remembering male Corvin standing over my wife with a syringe and a gentle voice. By the time Dr. Reeve finished, the air in the room had changed. Her expression was still professional, but I had learned to read bad news in the silence before men delivered it. What? I asked. Dr. Reeve closed the chart. I would prefer to discuss medical details with Mrs. Dravik's consent. Another correction I deserved. I looked at Nera. She sat propped against pillows, pale and exhausted, but her eyes were alert. You can say it, she whispered. Dr. Reeve exhaled slowly. Some of the medication records are unusual. My blood went cold. Nera did not move. What kind of unusual? The sedative dosage after surgery was high for her weight and blood loss. Not indefensible under certain circumstances, but aggressive. My fingers curled against the windowsill. And there's an injection listed 6 hours ago that is not clearly identified in the transfer notes. The room narrowed. Dima appeared in the doorway, drawn by whatever had shifted in my posture. Nera's face went still in a way I was beginning to understand meant terror. Dr. Reeve continued, Careful now. I'm not accusing anyone, but until I know exactly what she was given, I recommend no medication from previous stock be used. Now, the name did not need to be spoken. It moved through the room anyway. I looked at Nera. She looked back. For one heartbeat, The amnesia vanished from her eyes. I saw recognition. Not of me, of danger. Then the mask returned. Too late. My pulse slowed. Not with calm. With violence finding a direction. Dima, I said. He straightened. Boss. Lock down the medical wing. Pull every file Corvin touched in the last 5 years. Quietly. No calls. No warnings. Dima's face changed. He understood the weight of the order. And Dr. Corvin? No one tells him anything. Nera's breath caught. I crossed the room before I remembered to slow down. She saw me coming and stiffened. I stopped at the foot of the bed. The distance was agony. Nera, I said, and my voice was not gentle anymore. It was too full of the thing rising in me. I need to know if there is a reason I should keep him away from you. Her face drained of color. Dr. Reeve looked between us. The nurse went very still. Nera's hand moved over the blanket, searching unconsciously for something to hold. I wanted it to be me. I knew it would not be. Her voice came out almost soundless. I don't remember. The lie stood between us. And for the first time, I did not know whether to protect it or tear it apart. Because she was afraid. Because Corvin had touched her care. Because the woman who claimed not to remember him had gone pale at his name, at his medicine, at his threat dressed as treatment. And because I was beginning to understand something that made the floor feel unstable beneath me. Nera had not come home to recover. She had come home to a crime scene. My house. My doctor. My marriage. All of it. I turned to Dima. Find Corvin. Nera's eyes snapped to mine. Fear broke through before she could bury it. Varo, my name. Not who are you. Not Dravik. Varo. The room froze. Dr. Reeve stopped breathing. Dima's eyes lowered fast, as if pretending he had not heard it might save us all. Nera realized it a second after I did. Her lips parted. No sound came. The world narrowed to her face, to the panic she could not hide, to the truth that had slipped out of her wounded body before her beautiful, lying mouth could stop it. I took one step closer, slowly, carefully, devastated down to the bone. Nera, I whispered, how do you know my name?
Chapter 3. Varo said my name like it had become a weapon in my mouth. Not Nera. Not wife. His name. The one I was not supposed to know. The room froze around the mistake. Dr. Reeve's hand hovered over the medical chart. Dima stared at the floor like loyalty had become blindness. The nurse looked away too quickly. And Varo stood at the foot of my bed with his entire body gone still. Too still. The kind of stillness that came before men died. My pulse hammered against my neck. Too fast. Too loud. Too honest. I gripped the blanket with my good hand and forced my face into confusion. You told me. I whispered. His eyes did not move from mine. When? The question was soft. That made it worse. I swallowed, and pain dragged fire through my ribs. At the hospital. You said you were Varo. I said that once. I remembered it. After forgetting the marriage, my throat closed. There was no cruelty in his voice. No accusation. No rage. Only devastation learning how to ask questions. That almost broke me. Because anger I could survive. Suspicion I understood. Coldness was old weather. But this careful version of him was dangerous. It made me want to explain myself. It made me want to say, yes, Varo. I remember. I remember the wedding. I remember the first night you left me alone. I remember male Corvin showing you false proof while I stood in your office begging you to look at me. I remember every word you used to make me smaller. And I remember taking the bullets because some part of me still loved you enough to move before I thought. But Male was still out there. And Varo's guilt was not safety yet. So I lied. I don't know how memory works. Letting my voice fray. I heard your name. It stayed. Varo absorbed that. Not believing. Not rejecting. Just bleeding quietly behind his eyes. Dr. Reeves stepped in before the silence could become a confession. That is possible. Names can imprint quickly after trauma, especially when repeated under emotional stress. Varo did not look at her. Is that what happened? The question was for me. Only me. I looked at his hand on the footboard. His ring was still gone. I hated that I noticed. Hated the absence of gold on his finger like it meant something when it should have meant nothing. I was scared. I whispered. His jaw tightened. Not because he doubted me. because he believed that part. I don't want Dr. Corvin near me, I added. The truth came out small enough to pass for instinct. Varo's expression changed. Every sharp edge in him turned outward. Then he won't be. Dima shifted at the doorway. Boss, if we move against him openly, he'll know. Varo did not look away from me. Then do not move openly. I'll pull the records. And bring me the nurse logs. Not the polished files. The handwritten ones. A pause. Dima understood. So did I. The handwritten logs were harder to alter completely. Nurses wrote too much. Times. Reactions. Initials. Details doctors forgot mattered. Mail would have touched the official records first. Maybe not the human ones. Dr. Reeve closed the chart. Mrs. Dravik needs rest. Her heart rate is elevated, and stress will slow recovery. Mrs. Dravik. I felt Varo notice my flinch. He turned toward the doctor. Call her Nera. Dr. Reeve nodded once. Nera. Then. The correction should not have mattered. It did. That was the cruelest part of Varo's new kindness. It kept finding the bruises I had buried and pressing apology against them before I was ready. Dima left with the nurse. Dr. Reeve followed after giving strict instructions about pain, hydration, and movement. She spoke to me first every time. Not Varo. Not Dima. Me. I was not used to being the person decisions returned to. When the door closed, Varo and I were alone again. I stared at the window. Outside, dusk pressed against the glass, turning the winter garden into a dark sketch of branches and stone paths. I had kept that garden alive for 3 years. Through frost. Through neglect. Through the long seasons when I had nothing else in this house that responded to care. You should sleep. I don't want to. Because of Corvin? I said nothing. He moved, then stopped. I heard the restraint in it. The almost step. The swallowed instinct. Because of me? He asked. My eyes burned. Yes. No. Always. I looked at him. He stood beside the chair. Not sitting. Not approaching. Waiting for permission I had not given. The man who once decided my whole life without asking now seemed terrified of taking up too much air. I don't know you. The lie tasted like blood. His face tightened. No, and you don't know me. That was not a lie. He looked down. No. I don't. The honesty landed between us like a body. For years. I had wanted him to admit that. I had wanted him to stop pretending his hatred had made him wise. He had judged me from a distance and called it truth. He had mistaken silence for guilt because mail handed him a story that fit his pride. Now he stood in my bedroom and finally confessed the thing I had learned alone. My husband did not know me. The victory felt hollow. A knock struck the door. Varo turned immediately, one hand moving near the weapon beneath his jacket. Who? Marta. Sir. His expression hardened. What? I brought broth for Mrs. Dravik. My stomach twisted. Marta had never brought me anything with her own hands unless Varo was watching. Usually she sent trays through younger maids who did not meet my eyes. Varo looked at me. Do you want her inside? The question startled me again. Choice. He kept handing it to me like a knife with the handle turned my way. I nodded. Marta entered carrying a silver tray. Her face was pale. Her posture stiff. She placed the broth on the small table beside the bed, careful not to look directly at me for too long. Miss Nera, she said. Not Mrs. Dravik. Not Madam. Miss Nera. Varo's gaze flicked to me. I gave nothing away. Marta's fingers trembled against the tray. Good. I thought, and hated myself for the satisfaction. Will there be anything else? She asked. Varo's voice was cold. You can start with the truth. Marta froze. I looked at him. What did you allow in this house? He asked. The words were quiet. Marta's eyes widened. Sir, you heard me. Varo. I said before I could stop myself. Again. His name. My mistake. His gaze cut to me. This time, there was no missing it. I saw recognition strike him. Not proof. Not yet. But a second crack. Marta saw it too. The room shifted. I forced a shaky breath. I'm tired. Please don't fight. Varo stared at me as if the words had wounded him more than the name, because I sounded like a woman who had said that before. Please don't fight. Please don't be angry. Please not tonight. He turned back to Marta, but his voice changed. Lower. More controlled. Leave the tray. We will speak later. Marta fled. The door closed. Varo did not move. I hated the monitor. Hated the room. Hated my body for being too weak to walk away from what was coming. He looked at me with grief sharpened by suspicion. You say my name like you've said it before. I let my eyes fill. That part was easy. Maybe I have. His breath stopped. I continued quickly, softly, before he could move closer to the truth. Maybe my body remembers things my mind doesn't. Maybe I hated you. Maybe I loved you. Maybe both. I don't know. Everyone keeps looking at me like I should be a woman I cannot find. His suspicion faltered. Pain replaced it. I had used the truth as camouflage. That was the ugliest lie of all. He dragged a hand over his mouth, then stepped back as if he needed distance from me to keep from breaking. I'm sorry. I stared at him. 2 words. 3 years late. Not enough. Too much. For what? The question was cruel. I needed it to be. His eyes darkened. For making this house a place you had to survive. My chest tightened so hard I almost cried out. Do not soften. Do not forgive a sentence. Do not hand him absolution because he finally found language for the wound. You don't know that. Yes. I do. The silence that followed was not empty. It was crowded with every version of me that had waited for those words and never received them. Then his phone vibrated. The sound cut through the room like a blade. Varo pulled it from his pocket, glanced at the screen, and went still. What is it? He did not answer immediately. That told me enough. He looked toward the door, then back at me. Corvin knows Dr. Reeve is here. Fear moved through me, so fast I tasted metal. How? His face became the Dawn's again. Flat. Deadly. Because someone in my house told him. A coldness spread under my skin. Male still had eyes here. For 3 years. I had lived inside a mansion that reported my movements to the man destroying me. Varo crossed to the door and opened it. Dima. His guard appeared at once. Find out who called him. Now. Dima nodded and vanished. Varo closed the door and locked it. The click went through me. He turned back and saw my face. Immediately, regret crossed his. He removed the key from the lock and placed it on the table beside my bed. Within my reach. I'm not locking you in. My throat tightened. The key gleamed beside the untouched broth. Small. Brass. Impossible. A door in the shape of an object. He stepped away from it. You can lock me out if you want. I stared at the key until my eyes burned. I had dreamed once of leaving this room with a suitcase in my hand and my name returned to me. I had imagined stealing keys, bribing guards, finding hidden doors. And now Varo had placed one beside my bed like surrender. The world was cruel in ways too elegant to survive. Before I could speak, a crash sounded downstairs. Then a shout. Varo was at the door in an instant. Gun drawn. My body jolted upright, pain exploding white through my side. He turned back. Stay down. The old command. The new fear. The same voice. Footsteps thundered below. A guard yelled. Stop him. Varo opened the door. Dima's voice carried up from the main hall. Boss. Corvin's man was in the records room. My blood froze. Varo looked at me. In that single second, we both understood. Male was not waiting. He was cleaning the trail. Varo's face went terrifyingly calm. He stepped back into the room, took the key from the table, and placed it in my palm. His fingers closed mine around it, careful of the 4, careful of every bruise. A touch. Brief. Electric with everything we were not saying. Lock this door after me. My breath caught. He was leaving me the choice, and walking into danger because of what I had not told him. Varo, I whispered. He stopped at the threshold. His eyes found mine. There was again. Too much knowledge in my voice. Too much fear for a stranger. But the house was shouting below us. and Male's shadow had reached the walls, and there was no time to fix the mask. I said the only safe thing I could. Don't let him come back. Varo's expression changed. Not suspicion now. A vow. He won't touch you again. Again. The word landed between us. He heard it after he said it. So did I. His eyes sharpened. My hand tightened around the key until the teeth bit my skin. For one suspended second. The truth stood naked in the doorway. Then another crash sounded below. Varo turned and left. I locked the door with shaking fingers. Then, through the wood, I heard the voice that had haunted my marriage rise from the hall below. Male Corvin. Calm as death. Varo, you are making a mistake. Your wife is not confused. A pause. Then his voice sharpened. She is lying to you.
Chapter 4. Male said it from the center of my entrance hall, like a man delivering a diagnosis. Not a warning. Not an accusation. A diagnosis. My house had gone silent around him. Dima had one of Male's assistants pinned near the records room corridor. A thin young man with blood at his mouth and panic in his eyes. 2 guards stood with guns drawn. Marta hovered near the edge of the stairs, one hand pressed to her throat. Every servant who had ever whispered about my wife had suddenly remembered how dangerous silence could be. And at the bottom of the staircase stood Dr. Male Corvin. Calm, coat buttoned, hair neat, black leather medical bag in one hand. As if he had not walked into my home without permission after I ordered him kept away from Nera. As if he had not sent a man into my records room. As if he had not just said my wounded wife was lying while she lay locked behind a door upstairs, shaking with a key in her hand because I had failed to make my own house safe. I descended the stairs slowly. Repeat that. Male looked up at me. For the first time in my life, I noticed he did not look afraid when he should have. That alone should have condemned him years ago. She is lying. Nera remembers more than she is admitting. Every head in the hall shifted. My men heard it. Marta heard it. The staff heard it. The old version of me would have felt the old poison rise. Suspicion. Rage. Humiliation. I would have remembered every file Male placed in front of me 3 years ago. Every message log. Every route leak. Every signature that looked like hers because Male had made sure it did. I would have gone upstairs with betrayal in my hands and demanded my wife kneel beneath the truth. But I had seen Nera flinch from a syringe. I had heard the way she said my name and tried to bury it. I had watched a woman who had taken 2 bullets for me ask if she got a say. So the old poison rose and found no home. She may be. Male's eyes narrowed. The hall breathed in. I reached the last step. But the first question is not whether my wife lied. My voice stayed quiet. That was how men knew to fear it. The first question is why she believed lying was safer than telling me the truth. Male's face did not change, but something moved in his eyes. A calculation. A correction. He had expected rage aimed upstairs. Not this. She is unstable. Her mind is protecting itself through manipulation. Careful. It is medical reality. No, I stepped onto the marble floor. It is convenient language. Dima's grip tightened on the assistant. The man whimpered. Male glanced toward him with irritation. Not concern. Another thing I should have seen sooner. Your assistant was found in my records room. He was collecting relevant files for continuity of care. He was burning nurse logs in the sink. A murmur broke through the staff. Male's gaze flicked to Dima. Dima lifted a half-charred folder in his free hand. Blackened edges. Hospital stamp. Nera's name visible through smoke damage. The sight hit me harder than any bullet ever had. Nera Solenne Dravik. Not a theory. Not a memory. Not the pale woman upstairs pretending she did not know my house. Her name on a file someone had tried to destroy. Male sighed. Not with guilt. With disappointment. Varo, you are grieving. You nearly lost your wife. I understand the impulse to turn ordinary irregularities into conspiracies. I smiled. The hall went colder. Do you? His expression stilled. Do you understand grief? Male? Or only how to record it after you cause it? That did it. A small tightening at the corner of his mouth. Not much. Enough. I walked to Dima and took the burned file. The paper smelled like smoke and chemicals. My wife's blood work. Surgical notes. Medication chart. One line had survived near the bottom. Sedative administered prior to cognitive assessment. No dosage. No signature. Only initials. MC. My hand closed around the paper until it bent. You gave her something before she woke. Male tilted his head. She was in pain. Before her memory assessment, she had suffered trauma. And then you were very eager to test what she remembered. His voice cooled. That is my job. No, your job was to keep her alive. Male's eyes sharpened. Which I did. I moved before the room could blink. My hand closed around his throat, and I slammed him back against the nearest column hard enough to crack the framed mirror beside it. Gasps scattered through the hall. Male's medical bag hit the floor. In the past, I would have killed a man for touching what was mine. Now I wanted to kill this one for making my wife believe she was not. His pulse beat under my thumb. Quick but controlled. Still too controlled. I leaned close. You do not get to stand in my house and take credit for the breath in her lungs when I do not yet know whether you tried to steal it. Male's face reddened, but his eyes stayed on mine. You are proving my point, he rasped. Emotional attachment has compromised you. I tightened my grip. Good. His eyes flickered. Boss, Dima said quietly, not stopping me, reminding me. Nera was upstairs. Every scream would reach her. Every violent crash would tell her the house was still the same. I released Male. He bent forward, coughing once, then straightened with obscene dignity. Take him downstairs. 2 guards moved. Male lifted a hand. You cannot detain your physician without cause. I have cause. You have a frightened wife and a burned file. And an assistant who will decide in the next 5 minutes whether he prefers confessing to me or remaining loyal to you. The assistant began to cry. Male did not look at him. I did. What is your name? P. Pavel. Pavel. I. Stepping toward him. You were caught destroying records tied to my wife's care. You have 2 options. Tell me who ordered you to do it, or let me assume you acted alone. His face collapsed. Male spoke sharply. Do not answer that. Pavel flinched. I smiled without warmth. He already did. Male's eyes cut to me. Pavel shook in Dima's grip. He said only certain sheets. Only the medication sheets. He said the Dawn would misunderstand. Who said? Pavel's gaze darted to Male. The answer filled the hall before his mouth could. Marta made a strangled sound. Male's expression shifted into pity. A magnificent mask. The boy is terrified. He will say whatever you want. Then he and I have that in common. A voice whispered from above. Everything in me stopped. I turned. Nera stood at the top of the stairs. Barefoot. Pale as winter. One hand wrapped around the banister. The other pressed to her ribs. Her coat was gone, replaced by a cream robe someone had left in her room. The fabric swallowed her wounded frame. But there was nothing weak in the way she looked down at us. My heart lurched so violently it felt like anger. She should not have been out of bed. She should not have been standing. She should not have had to drag herself to a staircase to face the man I should have protected her from years ago. Nera. She ignored me. Her eyes were on Male, and in them, for one terrible second, there was no amnesia, no confusion, no blankness, only recognition sharpened into hatred. Male saw it too. His face changed before he could stop it. Triumph, because she had revealed herself. Then Nera blinked, swayed, and the mask slipped back into place. I heard shouting. She said faintly, I was already moving. Do not come down. She looked at me then, and I heard the command after I gave it. So did she. The old shape of us. My order. Her body bracing around it. I stopped halfway up the stairs. Please. The word cutting my throat on the way out. Let me come to you. The hall remained silent. Nera's fingers tightened on the railing. Pain dampened her forehead. She tried to hide it, but her face had gone gray around the mouth. Male's voice floated up from below. She is endangering herself to perform for you. I turned on him. Speak again, and I remove your tongue. No one doubted me. Nera's breath hitched. Not fear. Pain. I climbed the rest of the stairs slowly. Palms open. Weapon still holstered. Every instinct screamed to grab her before she fell. Every lesson she had taught me in the last 2 days told me not to. At the top, I stopped an arm's length away. You're bleeding through the bandage. Her eyes lowered to her side. A dark stain had spread beneath the robe. Something in me went white. I'm fine. The lie was automatic. I wondered how many times she had said that in this house and been grateful no one checked. You are not. May I carry you? Her gaze flew to mine. Below, the whole house waited. My men, my staff, my enemy. I had never asked before touching her in public. At galas, I had placed a hand at her back because cameras required it. At funerals, I had guided her like a possession. In our chapel, I had taken her hand to bind her to me and never once wondered whether she wanted my fingers there. Now I waited while her blood touched cream silk. She gave one small nod. I lifted her carefully. She bit back a sound, but her good hand clutched my shirt. The contact nearly ruined me. Not because it was tender, because it was trust forced by injury, and I had become the lesser danger. I carried her down 3 stairs to the landing bench instead of back to her room. She stiffened when I moved toward the hall below, and I understood. She did not want to disappear upstairs while Mail rewrote the story. So I sat her where she could see everything. Then I knelt in front of her, the Don of the Dravik family, on his knees in the open hall, adjusting the edge of her robe away from the blood with hands that wanted to shake and did not dare. The staff stared. Let them remember this. Dima. Yes. Bring Dr. Reeve. Now. He vanished. Mail made a soft sound of contempt. You are humiliating yourself. I did not look at him. No. I am learning the difference between humiliation and repentance. Nera's eyes snapped. To mine. There. A hit. Not forgiveness. Never that easily. But impact. I lowered my voice for her alone. You should not have had to come out here. She looked past me at Mail. I heard him say I was lying. The words were careful. Too careful. Are you? Her gaze returned to mine. The hall seemed to vanish. For one moment, it was only us on the landing, surrounded by the wreckage of what I had believed. She could have told me. I almost begged her to. Instead, she whispered, would you believe me if I said no? The question went through me like a blade, because 3 years ago, she had said no. I had not believed her. My mouth went dry. I don't know what I deserve to believe, but I know I should have started with you. Her eyes shone. She looked away before a tear could fall. Dr. Reeve arrived breathless with her nurse and medical bag. She needs to lie down. She stays where she chooses. Then looked at Nera. Unless you want your room. Nera shook her head once. Dr. Reeve examined the bandage with brisk, careful hands. Sutures pulled. Not badly, but enough. She needs rewrapping and rest immediately. Mail watched from below. Too calm again, always rebuilding his mask. I stood, turned, and faced the hall. Everyone listened carefully. The staff stiffened. This house failed my wife. Nera went still behind me. I did not look back. If I did, I might not finish. You believed what I allowed you to believe. You treated her according to the hatred I permitted in my name. That ends today. No one moved. I looked at Marta. You will give Dima a list of every person who restricted her calls, entered her rooms without permission, reported her movements, touched her belongings, mocked her name, delayed her meals, refused her requests, or served Dr. Corvin before serving her. Marta trembled. Sir, tonight. Her eyes filled. Yes, sir. I turned to my men. And every guard assigned to watch her for suspicion instead of protection will be questioned. Dima returned to my side. Understood. Then I looked at Mail. He stood alone now, his assistant taken, his bag on the floor, his polished authority stained by one burned file, and the fact that my wife had looked at him like a nightmare wearing skin. You are relieved of all Dravik medical authority. A quiet shock moved through the hall. Mail's face hardened. You do not want to do that. You mistake want for decision. I have treated this family for 17 years, and I may spend the next 17 minutes discovering how many of us you harmed. His eyes went flat. There. The mask slipped. Only a fraction. But the man beneath it was not offended. He was threatened. Be careful. Varo. A wounded wife can make a man foolish, especially one with reason to feel guilty. Nera's breath caught behind me. I stepped toward him. This time, I did not touch him. I did not need to. You will leave my house alive because she is watching. Do not confuse that with mercy. Mail's gaze moved to Nera. I saw the threat in it. So did she. Her hand tightened on the bench. I blocked his view with my body. Look at me. Mail's eyes returned to mine. If you contact her, approach her, medicate her, speak to my staff about her, or say her name outside my presence, I will take apart every clean room, clinic, account, and grave you have ever hidden behind. A faint smile touched his mouth. You think this is about me? Ice moved through my blood. What does that mean? Mail adjusted his cuff. It means your wife was never the only person keeping secrets in this house. His gaze slipped past me again. And this time his smile sharpened. Nera knows that better than anyone. I did not turn. I would not give him the satisfaction. But behind me, I heard my wife's breathing change. Mail had struck something. Something real. Dima moved in. Get him out. The guard seized Mail by both arms. He did not resist. That was what made it worse. At the door, he paused and looked back over his shoulder. Ask her about the night your brother died. The hall fell dead silent. My brother. The word ripped through the house. I had no brother alive to ask. Only a grave. Only a closed room in the West Wing. Only a grief I had used as a weapon against the woman behind me. Slowly, I turned. Nera sat on the landing bench with Dr. Reeves' hand pressed to her side and her face drained of every color. Not confused. Not blank. Destroyed. Nera. She looked at me like the lie had become too heavy to hold. And for the first time, I understood that Mail had not framed her with one secret. He had buried her under many. Her lips parted. No sound came. Downstairs. The front door closed behind Mail. But his last words stayed in my house like smoke. Ask her about the night your brother died. Nera's eyes filled, and the whisper that left her was not for the room. It was for a ghost. I tried to save him too.
Chapter 5. The words left me before I could pull them back. They did not sound like mine. They sounded like something dragged out of a grave. The entire hall went still. Varo stared at me from the bottom of the landing, his face stripped of every defense. Behind him, the front door had closed on Mail Corvin. But the doctor's poison remained, crawling along the walls, settling into the silence, waiting to be believed. Ask her about the night your brother died. I had spent 3 years trapped beneath that sentence without anyone ever saying it aloud. Now it hung in the house like a chandelier made of knives. Varo climbed one step toward me. Say that again. Not a command. Not fully, but close enough that my body remembered the old shape of obedience and wanted to retreat from it. Dr. Reeves' hand pressed firmer against my bandage. She needs to be moved. Now. Varo did not look at her. Neither did I. His eyes were fixed on my face, and for the first time since waking, he was not looking for cracks in my lie. He was looking for the woman buried underneath it. That was worse, because I was there. I was tired. I was bleeding. And I had just said something Nera Solenne should not know if Nera Dravik had truly forgotten her life. I don't know why I said that the lie came too late. Varo heard it. So did I. His jaw tightened. But he did not expose me in front of everyone. That small mercy almost hurt more than suspicion would have. Instead, he turned to Dr. Reeve. Take her upstairs. Dr. Reeve gave him a hard look. I was planning to. Varo stepped aside. That shocked the room more than if he had shouted. He did not lift me without asking. He did not overrule the doctor. He did not drag the truth from me while blood stained my robe and staff pretended not to listen. He simply moved away and let 2 women help me stand. The pain hit as soon as my feet touched the floor. White. Blinding. My knees buckled. Varo moved. Stopped. His hands curled at his sides like holding himself back cost him more than violence. Dr. Reeve caught my elbow. The nurse supported my other side. I hated the weakness. Hated the way every step toward the bedroom made me feel like the house was swallowing me again. At the top of the stairs, I looked back once. Varo remained on the landing below. Still. Silent. Watching me with a kind of horror that had nothing to do with my wounds. I knew what he was seeing. Not an injured wife. Not a fragile woman. A locked door with blood seeping under it. And for once, he did not have the key. Dr. Reeve rewrapped my stitches in silence. Not cruel silence. Useful silence. The kind that did not demand performance. The nurse cleaned the blood from my skin with warm cloths and efficient hands. She explained every movement before she made it. When she helped me into a fresh nightgown that buttoned at the shoulder, she turned away while I adjusted the fabric across my chest. Small dignities. I had forgotten how easily they could be given. Varo did not enter. He stood outside the door. I knew because his shadow remained beneath it, unmoving, guarding or waiting. Maybe both. When Dr. Reeve finished, she checked my pulse, my eyes, and the color beneath my nails. You need sleep, she said. I'm not tired. She gave me a look that said she had survived too many powerful men and stubborn women to be fooled by either. Your body disagrees. The nurse gathered the bloodied cloths and bandage wrappers. Dr. Reeve lowered her voice. Do you feel safe with him outside? I looked toward the door. The answer should have been simple. No. Yes. I did not know how to say that safety could have layers. That Varo outside my door terrified me less than Male inside it. That the husband who had broken me was now the only person powerful enough to keep the man who framed me from finishing the job. I feel safer than I did this morning. Dr. Reeve studied me, hearing every careful gap in that sentence. Then she nodded. I'll be in the guest suite across the hall. My nurse will stay with me. No medication unless I personally approve it. And no one touches your chart except me. Thank you. Her expression softened slightly. Rest. Nera. Not Mrs. Dravik. Not Solenne. Just Nera. When she opened the door, Varo straightened outside. I saw him through the gap. Dark shirt. Blood at the cuff. Face carved into restraint. Dr. Reeves stepped into the hall and spoke quietly to him. I could not make out the words, only the tone. Firm. Warning. Doctor to dangerous man. Varo listened. That alone felt impossible. Then Dr. Reeve left him there and closed the door most of the way, leaving it open by an inch. An offer. Not a lock. Not freedom either. Something in between. I lay against the pillows and stared at that narrow line of hallway light until it blurred. Sleep stalked me. Memory got there first. A different night. Rain against the east windows. The smell of wet wool and spilled whiskey. Varo's brother, Solenne Dravik, laughing in the garage with blood on his lip. Because he had always thought danger was a dare instead of a warning. Solenne had been 26. Reckless. Charming. Too trusting of men who smiled while counting exits. He was the only Dravik who had ever treated me like I was not a stain on the family crest. He called me Sol. Short for Solenne. Son. He said once, grinning over a stolen pastry from the kitchen. Because this house needs one and my brother has the emotional range of a lock safe. I had laughed. That had been before Varo stopped looking at me like I might become something worth loving. Before Male gave him reasons not to. The night Solenne died, I had found the altered medical route by accident. A copied file left open in Male's private clinic office. Names. Times. Recovery transports. A line marked CD Solenne Dravik. Delayed stabilization recommended. I had not understood all of it then. Only enough to know Solenne was not being protected. He was being positioned. I had run through the rain to warn Varo. He had been with Male. And Male had looked at my soaked dress, my shaking hands, my wild story, and calmly told my husband I had been under stress for weeks. Unstable. Emotional. Desperate for attention. Then the call came. Sollenne's convoy had been hit. By the time we reached him, he was still breathing. Barely. I had pressed my hands to his wound in the back of that ruined car while rain washed blood down my wrists. Stay with me. I had begged him. He had smiled like dying was only another party he was late to. Tell my brother not to become our father. Then his eyes went still. And Varo arrived seconds later. Seconds. Late. He saw his brother dead beneath my bloody hands. He saw Male's false messages. He saw grief before truth. And I watched my husband's love for me, whatever small seed of it had existed, turn to ash in his eyes. A sound escaped me. The bedroom door opened instantly. Varo stood there. He did not enter. His hand gripped the doorframe. Nera? My body had folded around the pane without permission. My good hand clutched the blanket. Tears had slipped into my hair. I hated that he saw them. I'm fine. His face tightened. You were never fine when you said that. The words landed too precisely. I looked at him. He looked back, and the air between us changed. He knew he had spoken like a man remembering. I had heard it like a woman caught. You should sleep, he said. Rougher. You say that like sleep is safe. His hand flexed on the doorframe. Isn't it? I almost smiled. A terrible, exhausted little thing. Was it ever? He went pale. I had made another mistake. Or maybe I was simply too tired to keep saving him from the truth. Varo stepped into the room by one pace. Tell me to leave. And I will. I should have. I did not. The room felt too large. The shadows too familiar. Mail's last words still clung to my skin, and Cain's blood lived behind my eyes. Stay by the door, he obeyed. The Dawn of the Draviks stood at the edge of his wife's bedroom like a guard who had not yet earned the right to sit. Good. I thought. Then. Traitorously. Thank you. Neither of us spoke for a while. The house below murmured with movement. Quiet orders. Footsteps. Doors opening and closing. The beginning of Varo tearing into the walls to see which ones bled. Finally he said, Cain. My eyes closed. The name hurt more aloud. My brother's name was Cain. Was. Such a small word to carry a coffin. I'm sorry. His breath caught. I should not have known to say it with grief. Not if I remembered nothing. But maybe there was no safe way to be human in this lie. He liked you. My eyes opened before I could stop them. Varo stared at the floor near his shoes. He told me I was a fool with you. The memory struck so hard I could not breathe. Cain leaning in my doorway with an apple in one hand. Speaking low so the guards would not hear. My brother is stubborn. Soul. But he watches you when you leave rooms. That means something. It had meant nothing. Or worse. It had meant something he was willing to kill. I turned my face toward the window. Did he? Yes. Did you listen? No, the answer was immediate. Clean. Merciless. The room trembled with it. Varo's voice dropped. Mail said you were near his route logs the week he died. I stared at the curtains. There it was. The old accusation. Delivered softly now, but still carrying the same bones. I don't remember. I know. But he did not sound like he knew. He sounded like he was giving me time. That frightened me more. Dima found part of the burned file. The medication sheets were not the only thing missing. My pulse changed. He heard the machine respond. I hated that machine like an enemy. What else? His eyes lifted. Your psychiatric notes. My blood turned cold. I looked at him before I could stop myself. Varo saw too much. His expression shifted. Darkness gathering behind his eyes. You knew they existed. I could deny it. I could sink deeper into the pillow and let the poor wounded wife become confused. Again. But the memory of Mail's voice slid through me. A frantic woman is so easy to diagnose. My throat tightened. I know what psychiatric notes are. That is not what I said. No. I whispered. It is what I can answer. He absorbed that. The restraint in him strained. I could feel how badly he wanted to cross the room. To take my shoulders. To demand I give him a shape he could fight. But he stayed by the door. He stayed exactly where I had put him. That was why the next words came out. Not all truth. But more than I meant to give. Was I unstable? His face changed. Nera. Was that what he said? Varo looked away. Answer enough. Humiliation moved through me in a cold wave. Even now. Even knowing what Mail was. Part of me felt the old shame. The old helplessness of being translated by a man with medical authority until my fear became hysteria. My warnings became delusions. My grief became performance. He told you I was unstable. Varo's silence broke something inside me. He told you I wanted attention. His jaw tightened. He told you I was obsessed with your family secrets. Nera, he told you I might hurt myself to make you look cruel. Varo flinched. There. That one. That was the one he had believed hardest. I laughed once. Softly. It hurt my ribs enough to bring tears. How convenient. He crossed one step into the room. I looked at him. And he stopped. Did he say that? Varo's voice was rough. Yes. And you believed him? He closed his eyes. For a moment. He looked like a man standing before a judge he could not threaten. Yes. The word should have been nothing. I already knew. But hearing it now, while my body was still stitched together from bullets taken for him, felt like being shot in a quieter place. I nodded. Thank you for telling me. He looked at me then. Stricken. Politeness was its own violence. I am going to find every lie he told me. I smiled faintly. Will that change the years? No good. At least he knew. He came no closer. But his voice did. Nothing changes what I did with those lies. The tears burned. I refused them. You keep saying the right things. His face tightened. Do I? Yes. My fingers curled in the blanket. That is what makes it worse. He did not understand at first. Then he did. Because if he could say the right things now, he could have said them then. If he could ask permission now, he could have asked before. If he could question Mail now, he could have questioned him when I was on my knees in his office with proof in my shaking hands. Varo looked down like the weight of his own body had become difficult. A knock saved us. Dima entered after Varo's permission, holding a sealed brown folder. His eyes flicked to me, then away with more respect than he had ever given before. We found something. Varo did not move. Say it. Dima hesitated. I knew then that whatever he carried had my name on it. Boss, he said carefully, this should be private. Varo's eyes remained on mine. No more decisions about her made outside her hearing. Dima swallowed. It involves Kayan. My chest clenched. Varo's expression hardened. Read it. Dima opened the folder. There was a backup dispatch log from the night of the attack. Not in the main archive. One of the old drivers kept copies for insurance. Varo went still. Dima's voice lowered. The route change that sent Kayan into the ambush was not entered from Mrs. Dravik's phone. My breath stopped. Varo looked as if the room had tilted beneath him. Dima continued, each word heavier than the last. It came from Dr. Corvin's clinic terminal. Silence crashed. For 3 years, that lie had lived around my throat. Now it stood in the room with nowhere to hide. Varo's face did not change at first. That frightened me. Then the blood drained slowly from beneath his skin. No, not denial of my innocence. Denial of what he had done with my supposed guilt. Dima held out the paper. Varo took it. His eyes moved over the log once. Twice. A third time. His hand began to shake. Only slightly. Enough. I watched the first true piece of proof enter him. Not suspicion. Proof. The kind he had demanded from me when Mail had already made sure I would never have enough. Varo looked at me. I could not breathe. If I were truly without memory, I would have asked what it meant. I would have looked confused. Instead, I sat frozen against the pillows with my heart breaking open around an old, terrible relief. He saw that too. The paper lowered in his hand. Nera, he whispered. Do not look at me like you finally see the corpse under the floorboards and expect me to help you mourn it. My vision blurred. I'm tired. But my voice was not blank now. It was destroyed. Varo took one step toward me. I shook my head. He stopped like the gesture had struck him. Dima quietly backed out and closed the door. The proof remained in Varo's hand. So did the years. I blamed you for him. I turned my face away. I don't remember. The lie was barely alive. He heard it dying. I blamed you. He repeated, voice breaking around the words. And you were trying to save him. A tear slipped free. I hated it. I hated him for seeing it. I hated myself for still remembering Kayan's smile, Varo's grief, the rain, the blood, the way my husband had looked at me afterward as if my hands had killed what they had tried to hold together. Varo came closer, then stopped at the side of the bed. Not touching, not asking, just standing there with proof in one hand and ruin in the other. I need to know what happened that night. I closed my eyes. No, his breath hitched. It was the first honest no I had given him in 3 years. No softness. No explanation. No wife trying to make his pain easier to swallow. Just no. When I opened my eyes, his face had changed. Not with anger. With acceptance that felt worse. All right. I stared at him. He folded the dispatch log carefully and placed it on the table beside the key. Proof and escape. Side by side. Then he stepped back. I will not force it out of you. The words shook something loose in my chest. Because once, long ago, force had not needed hands. It had looked like locked accounts. Guards outside doors. Doctors translating my fear. A husband's disbelief hard enough to become law. Varo reached the door. Before leaving, he turned back. His eyes were dark, wet, and mercilessly awake. But I am going to dig up every lie he buried around you. And when I am done, Nera, there will not be a single place left in this house for my guilt to hide. He opened the door, then stopped. His voice dropped. And if Corvin touched you in ways I did not see, if he used my hatred to hurt you while I called it care, I will not ask you to forgive the man I become when I find out. The door closed softly behind him. No slam, no command, no demand. That gentleness finished what the proof had started. I reached for the dispatch log with shaking fingers. Not the key, the proof. For 3 years, I had dreamed of evidence strong enough to make Varo believe me. Now it lay beside my bed. Too late to save Kayan. Too late to save the girl I had been. And maybe too late to save the marriage I was pretending not to remember.
Chapter 6. I did not go to the basement first. That was what every man in my house expected. They expected blood, screaming, a confession beaten out under concrete lights. They expected the Don they knew, the one who handled betrayal by removing every soft part of himself before entering a room. But Nera was upstairs, bleeding again because she had dragged herself from bed to face a monster I had invited into our lives. So I went to the one place in my house I had avoided for 3 years. Her room. Not inside. Never without permission. I stood in the hall outside her closed door with the dispatch log still burning in my hand and listened to the silence. Behind that door was my wife, the woman I had blamed for my brother's death, the woman who had tried to save him, the woman who had taken 2 bullets for me and woken up with a lie on her tongue because I had made the truth unsafe. Dima approached quietly. He knew better than to speak first. I looked at the paper again. Kayan's route had been changed from Corvin's clinic terminal. Not Nera's phone. Not her hand. Not her betrayal. Corvin's. For 3 years. I had let that lie sit between me and my wife like a grave. Where is Corvin? Gone from the estate. We tracked his car to the South Road, then lost him near the old quarry. He switched vehicles. Likely. Male Corvin had survived this long because he never moved without exits. I folded the dispatch log carefully. My hands wanted to shake. I did not let them. Find every property tied to him. Clinics. Storage units. Apartments. Shell offices. Anything under staff names. Dead names. Medical charities. Dima nodded. Already started. And the assistant? Pavel is downstairs. Terrified enough to talk. I looked once at Nera's door. A thin strip of light shone beneath it. She was awake. I knew it. So did my guilt. Not the basement. Dima's brows lifted slightly. Bring him to the library. The library? Nera should not have to sleep above screams. Dima's expression shifted. Not pity. Understanding. Yes, boss. He turned to go. Dima. He stopped. Who called Corvin? His jaw tightened. Marta's nephew. Tomas. Junior house guard. He says Corvin paid him to report any change in Mrs. Dravik's condition. For how long? Dima hesitated. I already knew I would hate the answer. 2 years. The hallway tilted. 2 years. 2 years of my wife moving through this house with eyes on her. Reports sent to the man who framed her. While I thought I was being careful. No, not careful. Cruel. I had wanted her watched. Corvin had simply used the permission I handed him. Where is Tomas? Being held. Do not touch him yet. Dima's surprise showed this time. I understood it. Yesterday, I would have had Tomas begging before midnight. Tonight, I needed the whole chain. Not just the easiest throat to crush. Everyone who reported on her gives a written statement. Names, dates, instructions, payments. Every word Corvin asked them to record. No one leaves the property. Yes, boss. And Dima. He looked at me. If any of them try to destroy something, you do not wait for my permission. His face went cold. Understood. I went to the library. The room still smelled of Nera. That was the first cruelty. Cinnamon coffee. Paper. The faint floral oil she used in her hair when she thought no one came near enough to notice. This had been her refuge. I had entered it maybe a dozen times in 3 years, usually to interrupt, accuse, or remind her that privacy existed only because I allowed it. Now Pavel sat in the chair across from my desk, trembling under a guard's watch. He was young, too young to have ruined lives from bravery, old enough to have done it from greed. When I entered, he stood so quickly the chair legs scraped the floor. Sit. He sat. I placed the burned file and the dispatch log on the desk between us. Pavel stared at them like they were loaded guns. They already have your fingerprints. They already have you in the records room. So do not waste my time denying the fire. His throat bobbed. Dr. Corvin said the files would hurt Mrs. Dravik if they were misunderstood. I leaned back. There were few things more insulting than a coward pretending he had acted out of compassion. Hurt her how? He said her mental state was delicate. My wife took 2 bullets yesterday. Her mental state is not what concerns you. Pavel's eyes filled. I didn't know. Then become useful. He looked toward the guard, then back at me. Dr. Corvin kept private files separate from the clinic system. Paper copies. He said digital records were vulnerable. Where? I don't know all of them. I waited. Silence did more work than violence when a man already feared his own breathing. Pavel broke within seconds. There's a locked cabinet in his north clinic, and one in the old chapel infirmary. He used the chapel because no one goes there anymore. The old chapel. My wedding chapel. My stomach went cold. What did he keep there? Marriage. Alliance files. Medical reports. Psychological observations. Pregnancy assessments. Bloodline histories. My hands stilled on the desk. Pregnancy assessments. I did not move. Pavel saw my face and began talking faster. I never read them. I swear. I only carried envelopes. Envelopes for whom? Sometimes Dr. Corvin. Sometimes to a courier. What courier? I don't know his name. Silver ring. Scar here. Pavel touched his chin. He came from the East Gate. East Gate. The Solenne entrance. The Treaty Gate. A gate I had kept open for alliance business and never questioned because I had been too busy questioning my wife. I stood. Pavel flinched so hard the chair rocked. You will write every delivery, every date, every face you remember. If you lie, I will know. If you omit, I will know. If Corvin contacts you and you do not tell me within 30 seconds, I will assume you chose him. Pavel nodded frantically. I left him shaking. Outside the library, Dima waited with 2 folders. His expression told me one was bad and the other was worse. Start. He handed me the first. Tomas confessed. He sent Corvin updates whenever Mrs. Dravik left her room, received mail, made phone calls, refused meals, or asked to leave the estate. My vision narrowed. Asked to leave. Dima's voice lowered. 7 recorded requests. 7. I remembered none of them. No, that was another lie. I remembered one. Nera standing at the end of my office while rain struck the windows. Dressed in gray. Face pale but composed. I would like permission to visit my aunt for a week. No. Just that. No. I had not asked why. I had not looked up long enough to see her hands twist together. 7 requests. 7 doors closed. Dima gave me the second folder. This came from Tomas's room. Inside was a notebook. Not official. Handwritten. Dates. Times. Observations. Mrs. D refused dinner. Mrs. D cried in library. At 2:10 a.m., Mrs. D asked Marta for phone returned. Mrs. D slept in garden again. Mrs. D spoke to herself in chapel. Mrs. D burned letter before dawn. My chest went hollow. They had documented her loneliness like surveillance. Not as suffering. As evidence. I turned the page. One line stopped me. Mrs. D asked if Don Varo came home. Told no. She sat outside his office until 3 a.m. I remembered that night. I had come home late. I had seen her shadow near the office door. I had turned away before she noticed me. Because I had wanted to punish her with absence. Because I had known she was waiting. I closed the notebook. Not because I could not bear more. Because I needed to bear it where she could not hear me break. Bring Marta. Dima left. I stood alone in the corridor, holding proof of the small cruelties that had built my wife's prison brick by brick. When Marta arrived, she looked older than she had that morning. Good. Truth should age people. You knew Tomas reported to Corvin. Her eyes dropped. Yes. No denial. No protest. That almost made me angrier. Why? Dr. Corvin said it was for your safety. My safety. And the family's. Her voice trembled. After Master Cain died, everyone believed. Everyone believed what I permitted. Her eyes filled. Sir, we thought she had betrayed you. So you starved her? Marta flinched. Never. I opened the notebook and read aloud. Mrs. D refused dinner. Mrs. D requested tray be removed untouched. Mrs. D asked for coffee and was told kitchen closed. Marta's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Would my kitchen have been closed if I asked? No. Would it have been closed if Corvin asked? No. Then it was closed to her. She began to cry. I felt nothing soft. Who entered her rooms? Maids. Guards sometimes. Why guards? To search. For what? Letters. Devices. Proof she was contacting enemies. I looked toward the ceiling. Her room was above us. My wife had slept over a house that searched her drawers while she was made to look unstable for objecting. What did you find? Nothing. The answer came quickly. Too quickly. Nothing. She repeated. Ever. And still you kept searching. Marta covered her mouth. I stepped closer. Every person involved is dismissed from this house tonight. Their names stay with Dima until I decide whether dismissal is mercy. Sir. Some only followed orders. My stare silenced her. So did you. Her tears fell harder. Pack your belongings. Her head snapped up. Please. I served your father. And failed my wife. The words did not rise. They did not need to. Marta looked toward the stairs. May I apologize to her? No, pain crossed her face. Maybe she expected me to relent. Maybe once I would have enjoyed refusing. Now I only understood that an apology demanded from the wounded was another form of taking. You apologize when she asks for it. Not when your guilt needs somewhere to go. Marta bowed her head. Yes, sir. She left with a broken walk. Dima stood at the far end of the hall. You want her gone tonight? Yes. And Tomas? Held. Dima nodded. Then, his phone buzzed. He checked it and stiffened. What? Corvin's North Clinic is empty. I expected that. And the old chapel infirmary is not. I looked at him. Dima's face had gone hard. My men found sealed files. Yours. Kayan's. Mrs. Dravik's. His jaw worked once. And a video drive labeled Solenne. The air disappeared from the corridor. Bring it. Boss, now. He hesitated only because he had served me long enough to know when obedience might destroy me. Then he left. I went back to the library and waited. Not behind the desk. I could not sit in authority while the floor beneath my life was still cracking open. Dima returned with a black drive sealed in an evidence bag. I took it from him. Stay. He did. I plugged it into the secure laptop on the table. A single file appeared. No title. Only a date. The night Kayan died. My hand paused over the trackpad. For the first time in years, I was afraid to see the truth. Not because of what it might reveal about Nera. Because of what it would prove about me. I pressed play. The footage opened in Mail's clinic office. Grainy. High angle. No sound at first. Nera appeared on screen in a dark dress soaked with rain at the hem. Her hair was coming loose. Her face was pale with panic. She held a folder in both hands. Mail stood opposite her. Then I saw myself enter. Younger by 3 years. Colder than I remembered. Nera rushed toward me. Speaking fast. The video had no audio. But I knew that expression. I had called it hysteria. Now I saw terror. She opened the folder and pointed. I did not look. Not once. I looked at Mail. Mail said something. I watched myself turn on my wife. She shook her head. Stepped closer. Begged me to read. I took the folder from her. For half a second, I held the truth in my hands. Then Mail touched my arm, and I gave the folder back to him. My fingers curled around the edge of the table until the wood groaned. On screen, Nera reached for me. I stepped away. She froze. Not because I frightened her. Because I had made myself unreachable. Then the clinic phone rang. Mail answered. His face changed. He handed me the phone. I watched myself listen to the news that my brother's convoy had been hit. I watched Nera's face collapse. She moved toward the door first. Before me. Before Mail. Before anyone. Then the video cut. Another clip began. Rain. Headlights. The ruined convoy. Kayan's car crushed at the side of the road. Nera appeared in the frame, running barefoot through broken glass and rain. Barefoot. I had never known she lost her shoes. She climbed into the back seat before the guards could stop her. Her hands went to Kayan's chest. Blood covered them almost immediately. Her mouth moved, begging, commanding, praying. Then I saw myself arrive. I stumbled toward the car. Nera looked up at me with Kayan's blood on her hands. And I saw the exact moment my grief chose a target. I watched myself drag her away from my brother's body. Hard. Too hard. Her wounded bare foot slipped on glass. She fell to one knee. I did not help her up. I did not remember that. God help me. I did not remember that. The man on the screen pointed at her like she was the bullet that had killed his brother. Dima inhaled sharply beside me. I looked at him. His face was gray. You were there. He nodded once. Did you know? No, his voice was raw. I thought she had blood on her hands because she caused it. My gaze went back to the screen. Nera on her knees in the rain. My wife. My innocent wife. Trying to stand while I condemned her beside my brother's corpse. The video ended. The library went silent. Something inside me moved out of place. Not grief. Not rage. Something worse. Recognition. I had not been deceived because Mail was brilliant. I had been deceived because his lie gave my grief somewhere easy to land. Nera had paid for my weakness. For 3 years. I took the drive from the laptop. Leave me. Dima hesitated. Boss. Leave me. He left. I stood alone in the library my wife had used as shelter and understood why she had looked at me from that hospital bed and chosen not to remember. Because memory had never saved her. Truth had never saved her. Love had never saved her. So she chose a lie and made it armor. A soft knock touched the library door. Not Dima. Too gentle. I turned. Nera stood there. Dr. Reeves' nurse behind her. Unhappy but present. Nera wore the cream robe again. One hand against the doorframe. Face pale with exhaustion and something sharper. She should not have been walking. Again. But this time I did not tell her that. I only said, you saw. Her eyes moved to the laptop. Then to the drive in my hand. She knew. You found the chapel files. Not a question. The lie was slipping. Piece by piece. And neither of us reached to catch it. I nodded. Her mouth trembled once before she steadied it. Then you know I did not kill him. The sentence hit its knees in front of me. Not because she said it. Because she had needed to. Even now. After bullets. After proof. After blood and years. Some part of her still stood before me waiting to see if I would believe what should have been obvious. I crossed the room halfway. Then stopped. Nera. Her eyes filled. Do you believe me now? Now. The word destroyed me. I lowered my head. Yes. A tear slipped down her cheek. She looked almost angry at it. Too late. She whispered. I had no defense. No apology large enough to stand in that room. Yes. Her breathing fractured. The nurse shifted behind her. Concerned. Nera ignored her. So what happens now? She asked. That question held too much. Do you punish Mail? Do you punish yourself? Do you drag me back into being your wife? Do you make my truth another thing you own? I placed the drive on the table. Now I make the house safe enough for you to leave if that is what you choose. She stared at me. That answer surprised her. It surprised part of me too. The old Varo would have burned the world and called the ashes protection. He would have found Mail, broken him, then returned to Nera expecting gratitude to look like forgiveness. But I had watched myself leave her on her knees in the rain. I did not get to ask for anything. Not yet. Maybe never. Nera's hand tightened on the doorframe. You would let me leave. My throat burned. No, her face closed instantly. I stepped back as if struck. Truth first, then correction. No, I would not want to. I would fight every instinct in me. I would hate every mile between us. But I would open the gate. She looked at me for a long time. Then her voice broke. You opened it after you locked it for 3 years. I know. Do you? No, my eyes burned. But I am beginning to. Her tears fell silently now. She did not sob. Nera had been taught to grieve quietly in my house. I hated my name for that. I took one more step back, giving her space even though every part of me wanted to go to her. Your money will be restored tonight. Your phone. Your passport. The Solenne accounts I froze. Everything. Her eyes flashed. There she was. Not blank. Not lost. Furious. You froze my family accounts. The question was not amnesia. It was accusation. And we both knew it. I did not look away. Yes. Her mouth parted. I watched her realize what she had revealed. The nurse looked between us. Confused. Nera's face went white. For a second, neither of us breathed. The lie stood there, wounded and swaying. I could have said it. You remember. I could have ended it in the library with the proof in my hand and her tears on her face. But then I looked at the doorframe she clutched to stay upright. The bandages beneath her robe. The fear and exhaustion and pride keeping her from collapsing in front of me. I would not take her armor because I wanted truth. I told you earlier there were things I had taken. Perhaps some part of you retained that. Her eyes searched mine. She knew I had saved her. I knew she had been caught. The nurse exhaled softly. Nera's lips trembled. Not with weakness. With the dangerous edge of a woman who did not know what to do with mercy from the man she no longer trusted. I want to go back to my room. I nodded. The nurse stepped forward. I stayed still. Nera turned, then paused. Without looking at me, she said, "Do not kill Male before I know what else he stole from me." The room went silent. No confusion. No pretense. No delicate performance. Just my wife, giving an order like a Solenne and a Dravik both. I felt something dark and reverent move through me. Not desire. Not exactly. Recognition. This was the woman I had never allowed myself to know. I bowed my head once. "As you wish." She left with the nurse. Slow steps. Proud spine. One hand pressed to her side, holding herself together better than I ever had. When she disappeared from view, Dima returned to the doorway. He had heard enough. Smart enough not to mention it. "Boss." I picked up the drive. Find every file Corvin hid. And Corvin. My gaze stayed on the empty doorway where Nera had stood. "We do not kill him yet." Dima nodded. "First, closing my fist around the proof of my own ruin, we find out how much of my wife's life he stole while I helped him hold the door open."
Chapter 7. I should have felt safer after Varo believed me. I did not. Truth did not open the doors of the Dravik estate. It only turned the locks louder. By morning, the house had changed shape around me. Marta was gone. Half the upstairs staff had been dismissed before dawn. The guards outside my room were women I did not know, trained and silent. Their eyes respectful in a way that felt almost worse than suspicion because it arrived too late. My phone sat on the bedside table. So did my passport. So did 3 bank cards, a sealed packet of Solenne account documents, and a black velvet box containing my wedding ring. Varo had placed them there himself at sunrise. He had not woken me. Dr. Reeve told me he stood beside the table for nearly 5 minutes before leaving, as if the objects were not freedom but pieces of a body he had taken apart and did not know how to return. I stared at them until my eyes hurt. A phone, a passport, money, a ring. The practical tools of escape beside the symbol of the cage. I picked up the passport first. My fingers trembled when I opened it. Nera Solenne Dravik stared back at me from the photograph. Her face composed. Her eyes already tired, though the picture had been taken 2 months after the wedding. I remembered that day. Varo had sent a guard with me to the appointment. Not because he cared where I went. Because he cared who I might meet. I closed the passport. The small blue book should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like a test. If I left, would the gate truly open? If I stayed, was I choosing him or simply failing to choose myself? My ribs answered with a sharp pulse of pain when I tried to sit up straighter. I pressed my hand against the bandages and breathed through it. Across the room, the fire burned low. Someone had lit it while I slept. A tray of coffee and toast sat near the window. Cinnamon had been dusted lightly over the coffee foam. Not too much. Exactly the amount I used to make for myself. The details struck harder than it should have. I looked away. No. I would not be undone by coffee. A knock came. 3 light taps. Not Varo's. "Come in." Dr. Reeve entered with her nurse, a tablet in her hand and disapproval already shaped around her mouth. "You are thinking too loudly." Despite everything, a small breath left me that was almost a laugh. Is that a medical diagnosis? In this house? Probably. She checked my pulse first, then my bandage. "You pulled sutures yesterday. You will not walk unassisted today unless your goal is to collapse dramatically on expensive flooring. I have collapsed enough for 1 week." "Good. Then we agree." The nurse adjusted the pillows behind me. Dr. Reeve examined the wound with brisk gentleness, then changed the dressing while explaining every step. I watched her hands. Not because I feared her, because Male had taught me to watch hands. When she finished, she placed a sealed medication cup on the table. "Pain control. Mild. Non-sedating. I can open it here, or you can decline it." I looked at the cup. "Did Varo ask you to give that to me?" Her brows lifted. "Varo asked me what would help you." I told him the decision was yours. He looked as if I had insulted his bloodline, then accepted it. That almost made me smile. Almost. I'll take it. The nurse opened it in front of me. I swallowed the pills with water and waited for my body to believe relief was allowed. Dr. Reeves studied the documents beside my bed. He returned your things. Yes. And you don't trust it. I said nothing. She nodded as if silence was answer enough. I have known men like your husband. Not personally. Professionally. Men who discover consent only after control fails them. My fingers tightened around the blanket. She did not soften the words. I respected her for that. Does it last? Sometimes. She closed her bag. When shame matures into discipline. Not when it stays performance. I looked toward the door. And how do you know which one it is? You watch what he does when you disappoint him. A cold little truth. Yes. That was the test. Not how tender Varo became while I was bleeding and fragile. What would he become when I said no with strength behind it? Dr. Reeve left after warning me again not to stand without help. For 20 minutes. I obeyed. Then my phone vibrated. I stared at it like it was alive. No one had called me freely in years. Every number had been filtered, blocked, watched, or reported. My old contacts were ghosts behind glass. The screen showed a name I had not seen in so long it hurt. Nera Solenne. My cousin. My almost sister. The woman I had stayed married to protect. My hand shook as I answered. Nera? Leora's voice broke on my name. For a moment. I could not speak. The last time I had called her, the line had gone dead after 30 seconds. Later, Marta told me the connection failed. Later still, Mail wrote in his notes that I had become agitated after family contact and recommended restriction. I had believed the house was closing around me. I had not known how many hands were pushing the walls. Leora, I whispered. She sobbed once. God, Nera. I thought we heard you were shot. No one would tell us anything. Varo's people blocked every call. My eyes burned. No, not anymore. What happened? Are you safe? I looked at the passport. At the cards. At the ring. At the door. I don't know. There was silence. Then Leora's voice lowered. Come home. Home. The word entered me like fresh air and grief together. The Solenne house was not safe in the way fairy tales meant safe. It was smaller than the Dravik estate. Older. Less powerful. Always negotiating survival with better-dressed wolves. But it had been mine once. There were olive trees along the back wall. A kitchen where my aunt burned bread because she talked too much. A balcony where Leora and I used to paint our nails dark red and swear no man would ever turn us into quiet wives. I had become quiet anyway. Can I? Nera. That one word held outrage. I closed my eyes. I have my passport. My accounts. My phone. Then come before he changes his mind. My eyes opened. Before he changes his mind. The sentence should have sounded unfair. It did not. Because a woman did not forget the shape of a man's power just because he placed a key on her table. I can't move quickly. I'll send a car. No, panic rose immediately. No Solenne car at the gates. Not yet. If Mail was watching. If the house still had ears. If Varo's enemies knew I was leaving, no. I could not drag Leora into this. I'll arrange it. Nera, are you in danger? I looked toward the hallway. Yes. I whispered. But not the way everyone thinks. Before she could ask more, the bedroom door opened. Varo stopped at the threshold. He saw the phone. He saw my face. I watched the old instinct flash through him. Who are you calling? Why? What did you say? Then he shut it down so visibly it almost hurt to witness. I'm sorry. I should have knocked. Leora went silent on the line. Varo's eyes stayed on mine. I'll come back. He stepped back. Actually stepped back. I hated that relief moved through me. Wait. He stopped. I lifted the phone. My voice careful. I'm speaking to Leora. His gaze sharpened at the name. Not with anger. Recognition. Guilt. Your cousin. Yes. The word came too naturally. I saw him notice. I saw him decide not to use it. Good? Leora heard him. I knew she did because her breath changed. Varo looked toward the hall, then back at me. Take all the time you need. No one will monitor the call. 3 years ago, I would have laughed in his face for expecting thanks. Now I only nodded. He left and closed the door. Leora waited half a second before hissing. Was that him? Yes. He sounds different. So does a locked room when someone opens a window. You still check for bars. My cousin was silent. Then, softly, come home. I looked at the wedding ring box. I will try. I ended the call before she could hear me break. By afternoon, I had a plan. Not a brave one. Not a permanent one. A beginning. Dr. Reeve would insist I needed outdoor air for circulation. I would ask for the winter garden because I had spent years there, and no one would question my body remembering the past. From there, a service gate near the old greenhouse led to the narrow road behind the estate wall. I had found that gate during my 2nd year of marriage. It had been locked then. Everything had been locked then. But now my accounts were active. My phone worked. And Leora had a driver waiting 3 miles away at the chapel ruins beyond the South Ridge. Not a Solenne car at the Dravik gates. Not enough to start a war. Just enough to disappear for one night. One night to breathe. One night to decide if freedom still fit me. I dressed slowly with the nurse's help, choosing loose black trousers and a soft sweater that did not pull at my shoulder. Every movement cost me. By the time I was upright, sweat dampened the back of my neck and stars threatened the edge of my vision. Bad idea, the nurse said. Probably. Dr. Reeve will say worse. She can say it after I walk. The nurse gave me a look, but she did not stop me. Maybe Dr. Reeve had instructed her not to. Maybe everyone had been told my choices mattered now. The thought was almost cruel enough to be funny. A woman guard waited outside the door. Miss Nera, do you need assistance? The garden. I'll inform Mr. Dravik. No, she paused. There. A test. Small. Sharp. Immediate. The guard lowered her hand from her earpiece. Would you prefer I don't? My throat tightened. Yes. Then I won't. I nearly hated her for making it that easy. She walked beside me, not touching, while I moved down the hall. Each step pulled at my side. The house watched from doorways. Quieter now, stripped of its old arrogance. Staff vanished when they saw me. Guards lowered their eyes. Too late. All of it. At the top of the stairs. I stopped. The landing below was empty. Yesterday, Varo had knelt there while Mail watched, and the house learned what repentance looked like on marble. I gripped the banister. Memory did not ask permission. Varo's hand under my knees. His voice asking before lifting me. The way his body had gone rigid when Mail said, "Your wife is lying." I closed my eyes. No. Kindness in crisis was not the same as change. Dr. Reeve's words returned. You watch what he does when you disappoint him. I went down the stairs. The winter garden waited beyond the back hall. Glass doors opening to a pale afternoon. Frost silvered the hedges. Bare branches tangled against the gray sky. The fountain had been drained for winter. Its stone basin filled with old leaves. I had kept roses alive here once. Not white ones. Deep red. Almost black. Varo had never asked why. The garden guard followed at a distance as I stepped onto the path. Cold air entered my lungs. Clean enough to hurt. I walked slowly, conserving strength, counting each turn. Left past the fountain, right near the dead lavender. Straight toward the greenhouse. The service gate stood half-hidden beneath climbing ivy. My pulse quickened. The guard remained near the glass doors, giving me privacy. Too much privacy. Maybe freedom was always suspicious when it arrived suddenly. I reached the greenhouse wall and stopped to breathe through a wave of pain. One hand on brick. One hand over my ribs. The gate was 10 steps away. Then a voice behind me said, "Were you going to say goodbye?" I closed my eyes. Varo. Not angry. That was the first thing I noticed. Not cold. That was the second. I turned slowly. He stood at the bend in the path, wearing a black coat, hair stirred by the wind, face unreadable in the pale winter light. My heart beat too hard. How did you know? His gaze moved to the gate, then back to me. I know my own walls. Do you know all the ways out? No, his voice was quiet. But I know the one my wife used to look at when she thought no one saw. My throat closed. Of course he had seen that too. Seen my longing. Done nothing. Were you following me? No. The guard did not call me. She obeyed you. A pause. Dr. Reeve told me you were too pale to be standing and too stubborn to be stopped. Despite myself, I almost smiled. It died quickly. So you came to stop me? His eyes darkened. Every old instinct stood between us. His power. My fear. The gate. The road. The choice. I came because if you collapsed before reaching the car, you would never forgive yourself for needing me. That struck too deep. I looked away. I don't need you. I know. No, you don't. He absorbed it. The wind moved between us, sharp with frost. Then he stepped aside. The path to the gate cleared. I stared at him. He reached into his coat and removed a small black remote. Pressed one button. Behind me, the service gate clicked open. The sound was tiny. The effect was not. My breath left me. Varo's hand lowered. There is a car waiting beyond the ridge. Leora's man. Dima confirmed he is Solenne loyal and not followed. My stomach dropped. You checked. Yes. The old fear flared. You had no right. I know. Then why? His mouth tightened. Because the man who framed you is missing. Because Corvin still has people inside roads I thought were mine. Because wanting you free does not mean pretending danger no longer exists. I hated how reasonable that sounded. I hated more that he was right. You could have used that to stop me. His eyes held mine. I could have. And I am not stopping you. The open gate waited. Freedom with frost on its hinges. I took one step toward it. Pain seized my side. I masked it badly. Varo moved half a step, then froze. His restraint was a physical thing. If you want help. His voice rough. Ask. I laughed once under my breath. It came out bitter. You keep making me choose. Yes. Why? Because I spent 3 years making sure you couldn't. The truth hit harder in the cold. I looked at him. Really looked. At the man who had held the gate closed for years and now stood beside it like opening it might kill him. Maybe it did. Maybe that was why his face looked so pale beneath the harsh sky. Will you send guards after me? No. Will you call Leora? No. Will you freeze the accounts again? His jaw clenched. No. Will you use the alliance to drag me back? A flicker of pain crossed his face. No. Will you punish my family? No. The answers came too quickly to be invented. Still, trust did not appear just because truth had. I stepped closer to the gate. My knees trembled. Varo saw. Said nothing. That silence gave me more dignity than help would have. At the threshold, I stopped. Beyond the estate wall, the narrow road sloped down through black trees. Somewhere past them, Leora's driver waited. I could go. Right now. I could leave Varo Dravik standing inside the walls he had built. I could become Nera Solenne again for longer than one hospital sentence. So why did my body not move? Because I was weak? Because I still loved him? Because Mail was alive? Because the truth was not finished? All of those answers terrified me. Varo's voice came from behind me. I found the chapel files. I went still. The cold entered my bones. All of them. Not all. He paused. Enough to know Corvin tracked more than your movements. I turned. His face was hard now. Not against me. Against whatever he had read. What did you find? His silence frightened me. Varo. His name again. This time I did not pretend not to notice. Neither did he. He took the hit without moving. There were blood tests. Private reports. Notes about the Solenne women. My mouth went dry. Women. You. Leora. Your aunt. Medical histories. Fertility markers. Genetic vulnerabilities. The garden seemed to tilt. No, I have Dima verifying. But Nera, no, the word tore out of me. Not Leora. Not my family. Not more of us. Varo stepped closer, stopping when I flinched. He was not only working against Dravik, he said. He was building leverage against Solenne too. My hand found the cold iron of the open gate. The escape beyond it blurred. Mail had my cousin's records. My aunt's. Mine. Pregnancy assessments. Bloodline histories. A memory flashed. Mail's hand on my wrist. Checking my pulse after I fainted in the chapel 6 months into marriage. You are fortunate, Mrs. Dravik. Some bloodlines carry weaknesses they never think to hide. I had thought it was another insult. Maybe it had been inventory. What else? I whispered. Varo's face changed. That was how I knew there was more. He looked down once, then back at me. There was a notation beside your file. His voice turned rough. Future heir viability. Monitor closely. The world went silent. Not quiet. Silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. The word moved through me like a hand closing around my throat. Varo saw my face and took one step forward. I lifted my hand. He stopped instantly. Good. Good. Because I needed the air between us. I needed not to remember. But memory came anyway. Mail's clinic. A blood draw I had not requested. Marta telling me Varo wanted routine family health checks. My account froze in the same week. Corvin asking if I had experienced nausea. My own fear blooming in the bathroom one morning over a late cycle that had turned into nothing by nightfall. No one had touched me gently then. No one had asked what I wanted. I looked at Varo. Did you know? His face strained. No. Did you ask him to test me for errors? No, the answer sounded honest. I did not know what to do with that. Did your family? I don't know. A bitter laugh escaped me. There it is. Nera, you don't know. My voice shook. You never knew. Not when they watched me. Not when they searched me. Not when he drugged me. Not when your house turned my body into paperwork. His face folded around the blow. I kept going because if I stopped, I would break. You hated me so much you did not even notice who else wanted to use me. I know. No. I snapped. Stop saying that. You do not get to know after one night of reading files. His eyes burned. You're right. The answer stole some of my fury because he did not fight me. I wanted him to fight. I wanted the old Varo for 1 second so leaving would become easy, but he only stood there by the open gate, letting me hate him without punishing me for it. That was when the phone in his pocket rang. He glanced at the screen and went still. Dima. He answered on speaker without taking his eyes off me. Dima's voice was hard. Boss? We intercepted a message routed through one of Corvin's shell clinics. To whom? Unknown. But it mentions Mrs. Dravik. My skin chilled. Varo's gaze sharpened. Read it. Dima hesitated. Read it. A paper rustled. Dima's voice lowered. The wife is mobile. Memory status compromised. If she leaves the estate, retrieve her before Solenne contact. Alive if possible. The garden disappeared beneath a rush of fear. Alive if possible. The gate behind me no longer looked like freedom. It looked like a mouth. Varo's face went terrifyingly still. Source. Encrypted. We are tracing. Lock every road between here and the South Ridge. My heart slammed. No, Varo looked at me. I could see the war in him. Protect her. Do not trap her. Protect her. Do not become the cage again. He closed his eyes for one brief second, then opened them. Dima, he said. Each word dragged through restraint. Secure the roads without stopping Nera's car. Clear the route. No one follows her unless she requests escort. Dima paused. Then, understood. The call ended. I stared at Varo. He had done it. He had protected the road without closing it. I hated that my throat tightened. The gate remained open. My body trembled from cold, pain, fear, and the terrible realization that leaving now might not save my family. Mail wanted me before I reached Solenne contact. Because I knew something. Because I was evidence. Because my body, my blood, my marriage, my memory were all tied to files he had not finished burning. Varo watched me, saying nothing. No persuasion. No demand. No see. You need me. That, somehow, was the cruelest mercy yet. I looked beyond the gate, then back at the house, then at him. If I stay, voice shaking, it is not forgiveness. His eyes softened with pain. I know. It is not trust. I know. It is not me choosing you. His throat moved. I know. He accepted every boundary like a vow. I stepped back from the gate. One step, then another. The iron stood open behind me, but I was inside the wall again. This time, the choice was mine. That did not make it feel less like a wound. Varo did not move until I swayed. Then he spoke. May I help you back? I looked at his hand. Large. Empty. Waiting. My body remembered bullets. Rain. Marble floors. Wedding vows. 1,000 cold dinners. It also remembered the way he had opened the gate. I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine with devastating care. Not ownership. Not yet trust. Just warmth. The contact traveled through me like grief. We walked back through the garden slowly. He matched my pace, not once rushing me, not once tightening his grip unless my knees weakened. The house waited ahead, dark and grand and guilty. At the glass doors, I stopped. Varo stopped with me. What happens now? His gaze moved over my face, then toward the estate wall where the gate still stood open. Now, we find out why Male Corvin was cataloging your bloodline. A shiver went through me. And then, his eyes returned to mine. Cold. Lethal. Devoted in a way I did not yet trust. Then I make sure every man who thought your body, your name, or your memory belonged to him learns exactly how wrong he was. The promise should have frightened me. It did. But not as much as the realization that followed. For the first time in 3 years, Varo Dravik was not standing between me and freedom. He was standing between me and the thing hunting it.
Chapter 8. Nera's hand stayed in mine until we reached the stairs. Then she let go. Not harshly. Not dramatically. She simply removed her fingers from mine, as if reminding both of us that needing balance was not the same as choosing closeness. I let her. Every instinct in me rebelled. The old beast under my skin wanted to keep her hand, keep her near, keep her inside walls where I could count every breath and kill anything that reached for her. But the old beast was what had made this house a prison. So I released her and walked beside her like a man learning how not to become the threat. Dr. Reeve met us in the hall with murder in her eyes. She walked outside. Nera lifted her chin. I needed air. You needed stitches that do not rip open because you are proving a point to your own body. Nera's mouth tightened. I looked away before either of them saw the dangerous softness that tried to move through me. Even wounded, even pale, even furious. Nera Solenne Dravik did not fold easily. She had been bending for 3 years. Yes, but that was not the same as breaking. I had mistaken her quiet for weakness because it made my cruelty easier to carry. Dr. Reeve guided her toward the bedroom. Nera paused at the door and looked back at me. Not trust. Not forgiveness. A question. I answered before she asked. I will not lock down the house around you. Your phone remains yours. Your passport remains yours. The gate remains open unless you tell me otherwise. Her eyes searched mine. And mail will not reach you. That is not an answer. No, it was not, because mail already had. Through files, through blood work, through men I paid and walls I owned. I lowered my voice. I will find him. Nera looked tired enough to fall where she stood, but her gaze stayed sharp. Do not kill him before we know what he did with the Solenne records. We. The word moved through me before I could stop it. Dangerous word. Small word. A bridge built out of glass. I won't. Her face closed slightly, as if she regretted giving me even that much. Then she turned into the room with Dr. Reeve. The door closed. This time, no lock clicked. I stood in the hall until Dima approached from the west corridor. We have the trace. I became the Don again because the husband had no right to fall apart yet. Where? Message bounced through 2 clinics and a dead charity fund. But one outgoing call hit a tower near the old port. Corvin. Likely. But there is more. There always was. Dima handed me a tablet. On the screen was a still image from estate security taken 3 months ago. Eastgate. A black sedan. A courier with a scar along his chin and a silver ring on his right hand. Pavel's courier. But the man beside him was the one who made my blood go cold. Aaron Solenne. Nera's uncle. Her family's acting head. The man who had signed her marriage contract with my father's old seal beside mine. For a few seconds, I did not speak. Dima watched me carefully. He came through the east gate 4 times in the last year. Always logged as alliance business. Corvin was present twice. I looked toward Nera's closed door. She had wanted to go home. To Solenne. To family. And perhaps the web around her had been tied to both houses. Does Leora know? Unknown. She called Nera this morning. We have not monitored her phone. Good. At least one order had been obeyed. Do not start now. Dima nodded. I looked back at the screen. Aaron Solenne smiled in the photo, one hand tucked into his coat, posture easy beneath the estate camera. A man comfortable walking through gates that had never belonged to him. I should have hated him. I did. But beneath it, something uglier opened. Recognition. How many men had used Nera while I punished her for surviving them? Bring up every record of Aaron Solenne's visits. Every call. Every payment. Every gift. Every doctor he recommended. Every account he touched. Yes, boss. And find out whether Leora is safe. Dima hesitated. I looked at him. Carefully. No contact unless necessary. No Dravik men at her door. I do not want Nera's family thinking I am using protection as a leash. Dima's face shifted again. That subtle surprise he kept trying to hide. I was beginning to hate how often basic decency startled my own people. Understood. He left. I went to my office and locked myself inside. Not because I needed privacy. Because if I stayed in that hallway, I would keep listening for Nera's voice behind the door like a starving man listening for water. The files from the chapel had been delivered in sealed boxes. Dr. Reeves' nurse logs. Mail's private assessments. Solenne bloodline charts. Kayan's emergency reports. Nera's psychiatric notes. I started with those. The first page nearly made me tear the desk in half. Subject presents with heightened emotional volatility after discussion of marital boundaries. Subject. Not Nera. Not Mrs. Dravik. Subject reports feeling unsafe in household. Possible manipulation attempt to regain. Unrestricted movement. Subject displays attachment fixation toward husband despite confirmed betrayal markers. Subject should be monitored for self-harm gestures designed to provoke spousal guilt. My hand tightened until the paper crumpled. He had turned her loneliness into pathology, her fear into performance, her love into illness. And I had believed him because the diagnosis let me remain cruel without feeling like a monster. The next file held blood work, hormone panels, genetic screening, fertility indicators, notes in male's thin handwriting, Solenne line compatible, high-value maternal profile. Emotional isolation may increase compliance if air production becomes necessary. The room went red at the edges. Air production. Necessary. I stood so fast the chair hit the wall behind me. For one savage moment. There was no strategy. No restraint. No promise to Nera. Only the image of male's hands near her wrist. Her body treated like inventory while I froze her accounts and called it control. I wanted blood. Then I saw my wedding ring on the desk. Still off my hand. A circle of gold. A circle of guilt. Nera's voice returned. Do not kill him before I know what else he stole from me. I sat down again. Slowly. Not mercy. Discipline. I read the next page. Payment authorization. Solenne protective custody clause. Signed by Aaron Solenne. My pulse slowed. There it was. Not the whole truth. A door. Aaron had authorized Male to medically monitor Nera under the language of protective custody after the alliance marriage. The date was 2 weeks before our wedding. Before Kayan died. Before the alleged betrayal. Before I hated her. The cage had been built before I ever locked the door. My phone rang. Dima. Talk. Leora Solenne is not at the family estate. My grip tightened. Where is she? Unknown. Her driver was found 3 miles from the chapel ruins. Alive. Beaten. He says a car intercepted him before Nera arrived. I stood. Nera's bedroom was 2 halls away. The house suddenly felt too large. Was Leora taken? Looks like she was never in the car. The driver said he received the instruction from her number, but he never spoke to her directly. A setup. For Nera. To draw her out. My blood went cold. Find Leora's phone. Already tracing. Last signal came from the Solenne estate. Aaron. The name did not need to be said. I ended the call and moved for the door. Halfway there, the lights went out. The office dropped into darkness. 1 second later, the emergency lights flickered red along the floor. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message appeared. She should have left when the gate was open. Every part of me went still. Then another message. Now she belongs to the agreement again. I was already running. The hallway outside was chaos contained by training. Guards moved through emergency formation. Dima's voice barked orders through comms. Somewhere downstairs, a security alarm pulsed low and steady. I did not care about the rest of the house. Only one door. Nera's. I reached it in seconds. The 2 women guards were down. Alive. Unconscious. One had a needle cap near her hand. My heart stopped. I slammed my palm against the door. Nera. No answer. I tried the handle. Locked from inside. Good. Thank God. Nera. Open the door. Silence. Then a faint sound. Not speech. Something breaking. I stepped back and kicked the door open. The room was dark except for the red emergency strip along the baseboards. The bed was empty. Dr. Reeve was on the floor near the fireplace. Dazed. One hand pressed to her temple. Her nurse lay near the wardrobe, breathing but unconscious. The balcony doors stood open. Cold air poured in. My body forgot how to be human. I crossed the room and reached the balcony. The winter garden sprawled below in black and red shadow. A rope ladder hung over the stone railing. At the bottom, one of my guards lay face down in the frost. Beyond him, 2 figures moved toward the greenhouse path. One dragging, one resisting. Nera, barefoot again, barefoot in the winter garden, robe whipping around her legs. One arm trapped against her side while a masked man pulled her toward the service gate. The service gate I had opened for her. The service gate I had left open because freedom mattered. My choice became the path to her abduction. A sound tore out of me that did not belong to any man. The masked man heard. He looked up. I vaulted over the balcony. The drop should have broken something. Maybe it did. Pain cracked through my ankle. But I landed and kept moving. Nera. She heard me, even from across the garden. I saw her head lift. The masked man jerked her harder. She stumbled. He raised a gun. Not at me. At her. The world narrowed to that barrel. I drew and fired before thought. The shot hit his shoulder. He spun, losing his grip. Nera fell to the path. I ran faster. Another man emerged from the greenhouse. Weapon raised. Dima's shot took him down from the terrace above. The garden exploded into movement. Guards. Shouts. Boots on frost. Red emergency light flashing against glass. I reached Nera and dropped to my knees beside her. She tried to push herself up and failed with a broken gasp. Blood had seeped through her bandage again. My hands hovered, useless with terror. Nera, tell me where you're hurt. Her eyes were wide, furious, terrified. Alive. Alive. They took my phone. She breathed. They used Leora's name. I know. Her face changed. Leora. We are finding her. No, she tried to sit. No. Varo. He has her. Aaron has her. He has to. Mail couldn't know the Solenne Gate paths unless. I know. She froze. The red light washed over her face, turning tears into blood. You know, Aaron signed Mail's monitoring order before our wedding. For a second, even fear went still. The information entered her like a blade slid between ribs. My uncle. My throat tightened. Yes. No, her voice was small. Not denial. Grief. Because betrayal by a husband could be survived by hating the marriage. Betrayal by blood-destroyed older bones. I looked toward the masked man bleeding on the path. Dima had him pinned now, gun at his head. The man laughed. Even wounded. Bad sign. I stood slowly, then looked down at Nera. May I lift you? Her eyes flashed up at me. This time, there was no hesitation. Yes. I gathered her carefully against me. She cried out once, burying it in my shoulder. The sound nearly ended every promise I had made about restraint. I carried her toward the house while my men secured the garden. She clutched the front of my coat with her good hand. Not like a wife, like a woman refusing to fall. That was enough. At the terrace, Dr. Reeve met us, blood on her temple and rage in her eyes. She needs the bed now. She gets whatever she needs. Nera's fingers tightened in my coat. Don't let them take him away before he talks. I looked down. She was shaking violently, but her eyes were hard. The woman in my arms was not blank, not lost, not empty. She was done hiding from men who built cages out of her silence. I won't. We reached her room. The broken door hung crooked on its hinges, a perfect symbol of my protection. Too late. Always too late. I placed her on the bed as gently as I could. Dr. Reeve moved in at once, cutting fabric, checking bandages, giving orders. Nera reached for me. Just once. Her hand caught my wrist. Every person in the room vanished. Her fingers were cold. Her grip was weak. But she held on. "Varo," she whispered. No one pretended not to hear this time. Not Dr. Reeve. Not Dima. Not me. The lie had burned away in the garden. I covered her hand with mine. Careful. Terrified. Reverent. "I'm here." Her eyes filled with pain and fury, and a truth we could no longer bury. I remember everything. The room went silent. There it was. The blade. The confession. The mercy and the punishment together. My chest hollowed out. I had known. I had not known how it would feel to hear it from her mouth. She looked at me, pale against the pillows, bleeding again because my enemies and hers had used every open door I had failed to guard. I remember the wedding. I remember Cain. I remember Mail. I remember you. My hand tightened around hers. Not enough to trap, only enough to remain standing. "I know," I whispered. No, her voice broke. "You don't." Tears slipped down her temples into her hair. "I didn't forget you. Varo." Her fingers trembled beneath mine. "I survived you." The words entered me clean. No defense. No breath. No room for anything except the truth. Behind us, Dima's phone rang. He answered quietly, then went rigid. "Boss." I did not turn away from Nera. "What?" His voice darkened. The masked man talked. Nera's eyes stayed locked on mine. Dima continued. "Nera Solenne has Leora. He wants Mrs. Dravik exchanged for her before dawn." Nera's hand convulsed in mine. I looked down at my wife, the woman I had hated, the woman who had saved me, the woman who had erased me because I had made memory unbearable. Then I turned toward Dima, and something in the room changed. Not rage, not only, a vow with teeth. "No, he does not get my wife." Nera's broken whisper cut through the room behind me. "She is my family. Varo." I looked back at her, and for the first time, I understood the test in its full shape. Not whether I could keep her, whether I could protect what she loved without using it to own her. I bent over her hand and pressed my mouth to her knuckles. Not possession, not forgiveness, a promise. Then we get her back, and when this is over, Nera, you still decide whether you leave me. Her tears spilled harder. Outside, the estate alarms wailed into the dark, and somewhere beyond my walls, the men who had stolen my wife's life waited to learn what kind of monster I became when I finally chose her.
Chapter 9. Varo kissed my knuckles like a vow. Not the kind spoken in chapels with witnesses and contracts. The kind made in ruins. His mouth touched my skin for only a second, but I felt it everywhere the old marriage had left me cold. My fingers trembled beneath his, and I hated that my body still knew him as warmth. Hated that even after the words left me, "I survived you," some broken. Foolish part of me wanted to curl toward him because danger had come for my family, and he was the only man in the room powerful enough to answer it. Then pain ripped through my side, and the softness died. Dr. Reeve pushed between us. "Move." Varo released me instantly. That mattered. I did not want it to matter. "She is bleeding through the dressing again." Dr. Reeve snapped. "Everyone who is not medically necessary gets out." Dima glanced at Varo. Varo did not move. His eyes stayed on me. Dark. Ruined. Waiting. I understood the question before he asked it. "Do you want me gone?" My mouth was dry. My body shook against the mattress. Somewhere beyond these walls, my cousin was in the hands of a man who had helped sell my life before I even knew it was being priced. Leora. My almost sister. My home. I could not let her pay for me. "Stay," I whispered. Varo's face changed so quickly it nearly hurt to witness. Not relief. Responsibility. He nodded once and stepped back to the wall, far enough not to crowd me, close enough that I knew he would hear every word. Dr. Reeve cut away the ruined bandage with quick, precise hands. "You tore the upper sutures again." "Not fully. Enough to punish yourself." I was being kidnapped. That is not a prescription. A laugh broke out of me. It was small, cracked, almost hysterical. Varo flinched at the sound. Dr. Reeve did not. "Good. If you can be sarcastic. You are conscious enough to obey." Breathe slowly. I did. Barely. The nurse cleaned the wound. Fresh pain bloomed hot and sharp. But I did not cry out. I had already given this house enough sounds to remember. Varo's hands curled at his sides. I looked away from him. At the ceiling. At the crack near the crown molding I had stared at for years while pretending I did not hear his footsteps pass my door. Now he stood inside my room because I had asked. Life was cruel with symmetry. Dima appeared at the doorway. Boss. Varo's voice was flat. Report. The man from the garden says Aaron wants the exchange at the old Solenne station. 4:30 before dawn. Mrs. Dravik for Leora. No. My head turned. Varo. He looked at me. I saw it again, the war in him. Protect. Control. Listen. Possess. Release. His jaw clenched once. Then he came closer, stopping at the foot of the bed. I am not handing you to him. You are not handing me anywhere. My voice was weak, but the anger steadied it. Leora is there because of me. She is there because Aaron and Corvin used both of you. Exactly. Which means they expect you to keep me locked away while you solve it like Dravik business. His eyes darkened. I could feel Dr. Reeve watching us, hands still working at my bandage. Varo said nothing. I pushed harder. Tell me I'm wrong. The room tightened. He could not. Good. I needed him honest, not comforting. You are injured. I know. You can barely stand. I know. Then you are not going to a hostage exchange. That sounds like an order. His face changed. The blow landed. He looked down, and for a second I saw the old Varo trying to die behind his eyes. When he lifted his gaze again, his voice was rougher. It was silence. Then he said, I am sorry. No excuses. No correction. Just the admission. My throat tightened despite myself. He turned to Dima. Leave us. Dima hesitated only a fraction before stepping out and closing what remained of the broken door as much as it would close. Dr. Reeve finished securing the bandage. I am staying. Varo nodded. Good. Then he looked at me. I do not know how to protect you without sounding like I am taking your choices away. The confession stole some of my fury. Not because it fixed anything. Because it was the first time he had named the thing between us accurately. I swallowed. You ask. His eyes held mine. What do you want to do? There it was. The question. So simple. So impossible. I wanted Leora safe. I wanted Mail exposed. I wanted Aaron's hands cut away from my family. I wanted to sleep without hearing gunshots. I wanted to hate my husband cleanly, without remembering how his hand had opened the gate. I want to go. Pain flashed across his face. He did not say no. That alone shook me. I want them to believe I am coming. I continued. Because if they think you refused, they may hurt her. If they think you are bringing me, they will keep Leora alive until they see me. Varo's gaze sharpened. Not disagreement now. Strategy. You want to be bait. I have been bait since before our wedding. At least this time I know it. His eyes closed briefly. When they opened, there was murder in them. But not for me. Corvin and Aaron will expect me to shield you with force. They will plan for my men. Yes. They will not expect you to speak. My breath caught. There. He understood. They used my silence. I whispered. I want to use my voice. For a long moment. No one spoke. Dr. Reeve broke it. Medically, this is a terrible idea. I know. She could bleed again. Dr. Reeve told Varo. His jaw worked. I know. She could collapse. I know. She could die. The word hit the room like a gunshot. Varo went still. I looked at him, expecting the command, the refusal, the wall. Instead, he asked Dr. Reeve, what does she need to survive the trip? My eyes burned before I could stop them. Dr. Reeve stared at him for a moment, then sighed like every man in the world exhausted her personally. A support brace. No walking unless necessary. Warmth. Pain medication that keeps her alert. No direct impact. No sudden lifting without warning. And if she starts bleeding badly, the entire plan ends. Varo nodded once. Then he looked at me. If you choose to go, we build the plan around keeping you alive and getting Leora back. If at any point you say stop, we stop. If at any point you say leave me, I do not obey that. My lips parted. His voice dropped. That is the only line I cannot give you, Nera. I will give you the gate. I will give you the name. I will give you the truth. I will give you the divorce if you ask for it when this is done. My heart lurched. Divorce. The word entered the room like a ghost. He forced himself to keep going. But I will not leave you bleeding in the hands of men who already tried to turn your body into a contract. The words broke something soft and furious in me. Not forgiveness. Something more dangerous because it had no name yet. Fine, I whispered. Then don't. His eyes darkened. Not triumph. Grief. As if even being allowed to protect me now reminded him of every time he had not. By 3 a.m, the Dravik estate no longer felt like a mansion. It felt like a war machine waking up under velvet. Men moved without shouting. Cars were repositioned with headlights off. Dima coordinated routes from Varo's office while Dr. Reeves strapped a medical brace around my ribs and muttered threats at my stubbornness. Varo did not hover. That surprised me most. He stayed close, but not over me. He gave orders outside the room. He sent women guards to help me dress. He had warm clothes brought in, black trousers, soft boots, a long dark coat that covered the brace without pressing on it. No gowns, no jewelry, no wedding ring. When I came out of the bedroom, he was waiting in the hall. His eyes moved over me once, assessing pain, color, strength, not ownership, not desire. Still, something flickered. Maybe memory. Maybe the knowledge that I had walked beside him into danger before and paid for it with blood. You can still change your mind. So can you. No, my mouth curved faintly. That sounded like an order again. His face tightened. Then, to my surprise, no, that was a confession. I looked away first, because I understood. He could not change his mind about protecting me. And I did not know what to do with a Varo who made that sound like devotion instead of control. Dima met us downstairs with a tablet. On the screen was a map of the old Solenne station, an abandoned customs warehouse near the private freight road my family once used before the Alliance shifted power to Dravik routes. 2 entry roads, Dima said. 1 main, 1 through the service track. We confirmed heat signatures inside. At least 6 armed men. Possibly more in the tree line. Leora? He hesitated. My stomach dropped. Varo's gaze cut to him. Tell her. Dima nodded once. 1 female heat signature in the inner office. Alive. Minimal movement. Alive. The word nearly took my knees. Varo's hand moved toward me, then stopped. I hated that my body wanted it anyway. Male. Unknown. Aaron is confirmed. We intercepted his voice twice. My uncle. The man who had signed me into marriage and kissed my forehead afterward as if he had not sold me with a blessing. I had thought he was weak. I had not known he was rotten. What does he want? Dima looked at Varo. Varo looked at me. The air clause. Cold moved through me. What air clause? His mouth tightened. There was language hidden in the original alliance contract. If the Dravik Solenne marriage produced an heir, joint control of certain medical and shipping assets would transfer to a private trust. I stared at him. I never saw that. Neither did I. Male did. Yes. The pieces locked together with a quiet, sickening click. My bloodline. The fertility reports. The monitoring. The way Male had watched my body like it was a ledger. Aaron had not only sold me into a marriage. He had planned to profit from what might come from my womb. I gripped the stair rail. Varo's voice went deadly quiet. Nera, I'm fine. His eyes flashed. I breathed once. I am not fine. I corrected. Because he deserved no comforting lie and I deserved no old habits. But I can stand. The look that crossed his face nearly undid me. Pride. Pain. Respect. He nodded. Then we go. The drive to the way station took 21 minutes. I counted every one. Varo sat beside me in the armored car, not touching, one hand resting near his weapon, the other flat on his thigh. His wedding ring was still missing. Mine sat somewhere in my bedroom beside my passport and the life I did not know how to choose yet. Outside, the world was black and silver. Bare trees. Frozen road. A moon thin as a blade. No one spoke much. Dima drove. Dr. Reeves sat in the rear medical vehicle behind us. Furious and necessary. I watched Varo's reflection in the window. He looked calm. That was how I knew he was not. When we get there, you stay beside me unless you choose otherwise. I thought I was bait. You are Nera Solenne Dravik. They can mistake that for bait if they want. The name should have angered me. It did. But not in the clean way I expected. Because when he said it now, it did not sound like ownership. It sounded like recognition of both parts of me. Solenne Dravik. The woman before him and the wife he had nearly destroyed. I may speak against you too. His gaze turned to me. If the truth requires it, then speak. And if your men hear, then they hear. If Aaron says things about our marriage, then he will probably say less than I deserve. My throat tightened. Stop being decent. It makes hating you complicated. His face shifted. Not a smile. Something sadder. I am not trying to be decent. No. No, his eyes held mine in the dark glass. I am trying to become someone you do not have to survive. The car slowed before I could answer. The way station appeared ahead. A low concrete building surrounded by cracked asphalt and rusted freight scales. One overhead light swung in the wind, throwing weak yellow circles over the ground. A single black car waited outside. The old Solenne crest hung above the entrance. Half broken. One stone wing missing from the carved bird. My chest tightened. Dima parked. Varo looked at me. Ready? No, yes. He stepped out first, then turned back and offered his hand. I took it. Not because I forgave him. Because my body hurt and the ground was uneven, and I refused to collapse before the man who had sold my blood. We walked toward the building together. Slow. Measured. Varo matched my pace with infuriating precision. At the door, one of Aaron's men stepped forward and searched Varo for weapons. Varo allowed it, only because my hand was in his. When the man reached toward me, Varo's voice cut through the night. Touch her and the exchange ends with your throat open. The man froze. I looked at Varo. He did not look at me. Ask, he said to the guard. The guard swallowed. May I check your coat? I should not have felt anything. I did. A small, fierce flame in my chest. You may look. You may not touch. The guard glanced at Varo, then opened the coat edges with 2 fingers barely brushing fabric. We entered. The interior smelled of dust, oil, and old paper. Aaron Solenne stood beneath a hanging industrial lamp, wearing a dark wool coat and the same gentle expression he had worn the day he gave me away. Leora sat in a chair behind him, wrists tied, mouth bruised, eyes blazing. Alive. Thank God. Nera. She breathed. I moved toward her. Varo's hand tightened once around mine. Warning, not command. I stopped. Aaron smiled. My brave niece. Still walking into rooms for people who cannot save themselves. You tied up your own blood. His smile thinned. I protected our future. Leora spat at his feet. Good girl. Aaron ignored her and looked at Varo. You brought her. She chose to come. Aaron laughed softly. Is that what we call Dravik obedience now? The words tried to strike old bruises. They did. But I did not lower my eyes. Let Leora go. Aaron's gaze returned to me. After we settled terms. There are no terms. There are always terms. Aaron drew a folded document from his coat. The heir clause remains binding. Nera returns to Solenne medical guardianship until pregnancy viability is confirmed or legally waived by both houses. I felt Varo go still beside me. A terrible, quiet stillness. Aaron kept smiling. You did not read your marriage contract closely enough. Varo, grief made you careless. Hatred made you useful. Varo said nothing. So I did. You let male test me. Aaron's eyes softened falsely. You were always delicate. No, my voice shook, but it did not break. You needed me monitored. We needed heirs strong enough to secure both families. My stomach turned. Leora strained against her ropes. Yuval old, a guard struck her across the face. I moved. Varo moved faster. His gun was in his hand before the guard lowered his arm. One shot. The guard dropped screaming. Bullet through his knee. Chaos erupted. Weapons lifted. Varo's men surged at the doors. Aaron shouted, "Stop!" Everyone froze on the edge of massacre. Varo's gun remained trained on the man writhing beside Leora's chair. His voice was almost calm. "If anyone touches her again, I start removing hands." Aaron's face paled. I looked at my uncle, and something inside me finally snapped clean. Not loud. Not wild. Clean. "You sold me." Aaron turned to me. "I saved Solenne. You sold me. I gave you power. You gave me a husband who hated me because your doctor made sure he would." Varo flinched beside me. "Good. Let every truth land." Aaron's eyes flicked toward him. Varo needed someone to blame after Cain. Mail merely helped grief find direction. I felt Varo's hand leave mine. For one heart-stopping second, I thought he was reaching for violence. Instead, he stepped forward and placed himself slightly to my side. Not in front of me. Beside me. "Say the rest." Aaron blinked. Varo's voice stayed low. "Tell her why Cain died." The room changed. Aaron's confidence faltered. My pulse roared in my ears. "What?" I whispered. Varo did not look at me. His eyes stayed on Aaron. "We found the second dispatch log on the way here. Cain was not the original target." Aaron took a step back. Leora went still. I could not breathe. Varo's jaw tightened. Nera was. The floor disappeared beneath me. "No." Aaron's face hardened. That was answer enough. Varo continued, each word colder than the last. Mail leaked her transport schedule. Cain changed cars with her after she received threats. He did not tell anyone because he thought he was protecting her quietly. The ambush meant for Nera killed my brother. Cain. My chest cracked open around his name. Cain stealing my coat that night. Cain saying, "Soul, ride with the second car. My brother's men are too obvious. I'll take yours and draw the attention." I had thought he was joking. He had smiled. He had known. He had saved me. And I had spent 3 years being blamed for his death. My knees buckled. Varo caught me with one arm around my back, careful of my ribs even as the world fell apart. Aaron's voice sharpened. Cain interfered with matters he did not understand. I lifted my head. Everything in me went quiet. "You killed him." I secured the treaty. "You killed him trying to keep control over my body." Aaron's mouth tightened. "Your body belonged to the Alliance." Varo's gun shifted toward him, but I put my hand over his wrist. He stopped. He actually stopped. My eyes stayed on Aaron. "No, it belongs to me." Aaron laughed once. "You are standing because Dravik holds you up." "Yes, because I chose his hand for this moment. Not because he owns me." Varo's breath caught beside me. I pulled away from his support slowly, painfully, until I stood on my own. It hurt. Good. Let it hurt. Pain made the moment honest. "Release Leora." Aaron's expression cooled. "Sign the waiver transferring your medical rights and Solenne trust claim back to family custody." "No, Nera, no," my voice rose. "You do not get my name. You do not get my blood. You do not get my womb. You do not get to call a cage family because the bars have our crest on them." Leora was crying now. So was I. But my voice held. "You used mail to frame me. You used Varo's grief to bury me. You used Cain's death to silence everyone who might ask why the wrong person was in that car." Aaron's jaw twitched. "I have nothing to say to you. I am not finished." Varo's men had moved through the side doors without sound. I saw Dima behind Leora now, cutting her restraint slowly, silently. Aaron did not. His eyes were on me. For once. That was useful. "You wanted an obedient Solenne woman. You chose wrong." Dima freed Leora. She shoved herself up and grabbed the fallen guard's weapon before anyone could stop her. Aaron spun. Too late. Varo's men had every exit. The room belonged to Dravik now. But Varo did not speak. He let it belong to me first. Aaron looked between us. Trapped. His mask cracked into rage. You think he loves you, he spat. He hated you because it suited him. He touched the lies and called them truth because blaming you was easier than grieving his brother. I used him. Yes. But he opened the door. The words hit. They were meant to. Varo stood beside me and took them without defense. He did. Aaron blinked. I turned to Varo. His face was pale. His eyes ravaged. You did. His voice was rough. Yes. You broke me with the weapon he handed you. Yes. You do not get to be innocent because you were deceived. No, he swallowed. I am not innocent. Silence filled the warehouse. That mattered more than if he had begged. More than if he had sworn revenge. In front of Solenne men. Dravik men. My bound and bleeding cousin. And the uncle who had sold me. Varo did not protect his pride. He told the truth. I looked back at Aaron. You were right about one thing. He opened the door. Then I reached for Varo's hand. His eyes widened slightly. I held it. Not because the past vanished. Not because forgiveness had arrived. Because in that moment, I chose who stood beside me while I faced the man who had tried to own my future. But he is not the one trying to close it now. Aaron lunged. Not at Varo. At me. Varo shoved me back. But he did not get the shot. Leora did. The crack split the room. Aaron dropped to one knee, clutching his shoulder, blood blooming through his coat. My cousin stood shaking, gun in both hands, tears streaking her bruised face. That, she said, voice trembling with fury, is for selling my sister. Aaron stared at her, stunned. Dima took the gun from her gently and pulled her behind him. Varo caught me before I could fall, one arm steady around my waist. This time, I did not pull away. I was too tired, too shattered, too alive. His mouth lowered near my ear, voice barely audible. May I carry you? I closed my eyes. The room smelled of blood and dust and the end of old lies. Yes. He lifted me carefully. My head fell against his shoulder because I no longer had the strength to hold it up. Maybe that was weakness. Maybe it was survival. Leora ran to us. And Varo stopped immediately so she could touch me. My cousin's hands cupped my face. Nera, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know he... I know. I whispered. And I did. For once. I knew the difference between betrayal and being trapped by someone else's lies. Varo looked down at Leora. You come with us. Under Nera's protection. Not mine unless she allows it. Leora stared at him. Then at me. I nodded weakly. Only then did she move beside us. As Varo carried me out of the way station, dawn began to gray the horizon. His coat was warm around me. His heartbeat struck steady beneath my cheek. Behind us, Nera Solenne was dragged from the floor. Alive. Not because he deserved mercy. Because there were still records to uncover. Names to expose. And graves to reopen. At the car, Varo paused. Nera. I lifted my eyes. His face was shadowed by the dying night. I will make a public statement when we return. About Mail. About Aaron. About Kayan. His voice roughened. About what I did to you. My chest tightened. You would shame yourself? His eyes did not leave mine. I already did. Privately. For years. He glanced toward the warehouse. Now I correct it where everyone can hear. The tears came before I could stop them. I was too tired to hide them. Too tired to pretend amnesia. Too tired to pretend his words did not strike the part of me that had once begged to be believed. This does not fix us. I whispered. No, it clears the ground so you can decide whether anything is left to build. The first light touched his face. And for one dangerous second, I saw not the man who had broken me, and not the man trying to save me. I saw the man he might become if he kept choosing truth after pain. That frightened me most of all. Because hatred had kept me alive. But hope was the one thing I did not know if I could survive again.
Chapter 10 by sunrise. I had 2 traitors alive, 1 missing doctor, and a wife who no longer pretended to forget me. That should have felt like victory. It felt like standing in the ruins of a house I had set on fire with my own hands. Nera slept in the medical suite after Dr. Reeve threatened to sedate me if I did not stop standing over her like guilt could be used as a blanket. Leora stayed in the chair beside her, bruised, pale, and holding Nera's hand as if she could anchor her cousin to the world by force. I let them have the room, not because leaving was easy, because Nera needed someone who had never been her jailer. So I stood outside the door with Dima and listened to the quiet. Nera Solenne was locked in the east cellar, wounded but alive. His men had confessed faster than pride could save them. The air clause was real. The medical guardianship order was real. The files Mail Corvin collected were real. And Mail himself had vanished. That was the part that made the old violence in me sharpen. Aaron had sold Nera, but Mail had studied her, tracked her, drugged her, framed her, turned my brother's death into a weapon and placed it in my hand. I had used it. That was the part no amount of blood would erase. Dima's phone buzzed. He read the message, then looked at me. We found Corvin. Every muscle in me went still. Where? The old chapel. The place where I married Nera. The place where he hid the files. The place where this prison had dressed itself as a vow. Dima lowered his voice. He has the last archive. He is threatening to burn it. What archive? His jaw tightened. The original video. With sound. For a moment, I could not move. The sound. Nera begging me to listen. Kayan's last words. My voice condemning the woman who had tried to save him. Mail knew exactly what to hold over us. I looked at the medical suite door. Dima followed my gaze. Boss. She is in no condition. The door opened. Nera stood there in a dark coat over her nightclothes, one hand pressed to her bandaged side, her face colorless and awake. She is going. Leora appeared behind her. I tried to stop her. No, you did not. I complained loudly while helping you stand. That counts. Nera's mouth twitched, but her eyes stayed on mine. You heard. Enough. You should be in bed. And Mail should have been in a grave years ago. We are both disappointed. Dima looked away. I almost smiled. God help me. I almost smiled. But Nera's eyes were hard. And beneath that hardness was pain I had no right to soften for my own comfort. He wants an audience. He wants control. She stepped into the hall. He loses both if I speak. Nera. No, her voice cut clean. This is not Dravik justice. This is not your guilt looking for a body to break. He took my voice first. I get it back before you take anything from him. The old part of me wanted to refuse. The better part bowed its head. As you wish. Her eyes changed. Only slightly. But I saw it. She had expected a fight. The old chapel waited at the northern edge of the estate, black against the pale morning. Frost clung to the stone steps. The doors stood open. I remembered our wedding there in flashes I no longer trusted. Nera in a veil. White roses. My hand lifting hers without tenderness. My mouth near her ear, offering warning where vows should have been. Now she walked beside me slowly, refusing my arm until the second step stole her breath. Then she reached for me with a furious little sound and gripped my sleeve. Do not look pleased, she muttered. I would not dare. You are absolutely daring. The words were too normal, too close to something living. Then she saw the altar and went silent. The chapel smelled of wax, dust, and old incense. Mail stood near the front with a silver lighter in one hand and a black archive case open at his feet. Papers spilled from it. Drives, discs, medical folders. A lifetime of sins organized by a man who loved records more than people. He smiled when he saw us. Nera, still walking when advised not to. Predictable. Her hand tightened on my sleeve. I wanted to kill him for saying her name. Instead, I stood still. Nera stepped forward without me. Only one step. Enough. You kept the original recordings. Mail's smile deepened. Evidence is only useful when preserved. You mean leverage. Such an ugly word. You made my husband believe I killed his brother. Mail glanced at me. No. I made him believe what grief had already prepared him to accept. The words struck. I let them. Nera turned her head toward me. Not to protect me. To see if I would deny it. I did not. He is right. Pain crossed her face. Mail laughed softly. How touching. Honesty at last. Nera faced him again. Play it. His brows lifted. The video. Play it with sound. Nera. She did not look back. No more pieces. No more men holding proof over me. Play it. Mail studied her. Then he crouched. Selected a small drive. and inserted it into the old projector system. Dima's men had already discovered beneath the altar cloth. The chapel wall flickered, and the past came alive with sound. Rain, the clinic door slamming. Nera's voice, younger and terrified. "Varo, please." He changed the route. "Kayan is marked in the file. You have to read it." My own voice answered. "Cold. You went through private Dravik records?" "I found them because he left them open." Male's voice, calm as ever. "She has been agitated for days. This may be another attempt to redirect suspicion." "No," Nera begged. "Look at me. Varo, look at me." On the wall. I did not. I watched myself take the folder. Watched Male touch my arm. Watched myself hand the truth away. Nera beside me made no sound, but I saw her shoulders shake once. The footage shifted. The road. Rain hammering broken glass. Kayan bleeding in the back seat. Nera's hands pressed to his chest. Kayan's voice came out weak, torn by pain. "Soul, tell him." Nera bent closer, sobbing. "Save your breath. Tell my brother not to become him." Then my brother looked past her. At me. I had forgotten that. No, I had buried it. Kayan had seen me before he died. His blood was on Nera's hands, and his eyes were on me. The video showed me dragging her away. Her cry echoed through the chapel when she hit the glass. The sound split me open. Nera flinched beside me as if her body remembered the fall. The footage ended. No one spoke. Not Dima. Not my men. Not Leora, who stood at the back with tears running silently down her bruised face. Male removed the drive. "There. Truth. Does everyone feel cleansed?" Nera looked at him, and whatever fear had lived in her eyes was gone. "You thought that would humiliate me." "It should." No, she stepped closer to the altar. "It humiliates the men who watched me beg and called it madness." Male's smile thinned. Nera's voice grew steadier. "You used medicine like a leash. You called fear instability. You called grief manipulation. You called a wife dangerous because she saw what you were. Nera, you are exhausted." There it is. Her mouth curved without humor. The doctor's voice, gentle enough to bury a woman alive. My chest tightened. She turned then, not only to Male, to me, to Dima, to every guard in that chapel. "I remember everything. I remember being told I was unstable. I remember being watched. I remember my calls being blocked. I remember asking to leave and being told no. I remember trying to save Kayan. I remember Varo believing everyone except me." Her eyes found mine. I took the blow standing. I remember taking 2 bullets for a man who had already made me feel dead in his house. Silence fell. No one moved. Nera's voice broke, but did not weaken. And I remember waking up and deciding that if memory had never protected me, forgetting might. Male's face hardened. A moving performance. No. Everyone looked at me. I walked forward and stopped beside Nera. Not in front. Beside. She is finished performing for men who profit from disbelief. Male's eyes cut to me. "You think standing beside her now changes what you did?" "No," the answer rang through the chapel. "No." I repeated. "It does not. I failed my wife. I believed your lies because they protected me from harder truths. I let my house become a cage. I let your words become law over her body and mind." Nera's breath caught. I kept my eyes on Male because if I looked at her, I might lose the discipline holding me upright. "I will answer for that publicly. But you will answer first." Male lifted the lighter. One flick, and flame bloomed. "Not if the evidence burns." Dima raised his gun. Male pressed the flame closer to the archive. "Shoot me, and the case goes up." Nera moved before anyone else did. Not fast, not foolish. She simply reached into her coat and pulled out her phone. Male stared. Nera's thumb tapped the screen. From the speakers near the altar, Male's own voice filled the chapel. "She is unstable. Her mind is protecting itself through manipulation." Then another clip. "Emotional isolation may increase compliance if air production becomes necessary." Another. Kayan interfered. Nera was supposed to be in that car. Male's face went bloodless. Nera lowered the phone. Dr. Reeve copied the archive last night from the files Varo found. Leora uploaded it to 3 Solenne dead drops before we left the house. Leora smiled through her tears from the back. Male looked at me. I smiled then, not warmly. "My wife told me not to kill you before she knew what else you stole." I said. "She did not tell me to let you keep thinking you were clever." Male's hand shook. "Just once. Enough." Dima fired. The The bullet hit the lighter, knocking it from Male's hand and shattering it against the stone floor. My men surged forward. Male reached for a small blade hidden beneath his sleeve and lunged, not at me, at Nera. I caught his wrist before the blade touched her coat. Bone cracked under my grip. He gasped. For a second, the old monster in me rose with joy. There. You are. A throat to crush. A body to punish. A place for rage to go. Then Nera's hand touched my arm. Not pleading. Commanding. Alive. I looked at Male. Then at my wife. The choice tasted like blood. I released his broken wrist and drove my fist into his stomach instead. He folded, and Dima's men took him to the floor, binding his hands behind his back. Alive. Barely merciful. Nera swayed. I turned instantly. May I? She closed her eyes. Yes. I caught her before she fell. Not dramatic. Not bridal. Just necessary. Her body sagged against mine, and the heat of her forehead through my shirt terrified me more than Male's blade. Dr. Reeve pushed through the guards. I told all of you this chapel field trip was idiotic. Nera whispered. Worth it. Do not make me dislike you. A broken laugh moved through Nera, and I held her more carefully because the sound mattered. Male was dragged past us. His polished mask was gone now. He looked small, bleeding, human in the ugliest way. He lifted his head toward Nera. You think this frees you? Nera looked at him from my arms. No, she said. I freed myself when I stopped needing any of you to believe me before I believed myself. Male had no answer. They took him out. The chapel doors stood open behind him, and morning light poured over the floor where Nera and I had once stood as strangers dressed as husband and wife. I looked down at her. Her eyes were tired, fever-bright, and still guarded, always guarded. Because of me, the files will go out within the hour. Every family, every council, every authority we can use without burying the truth. Aaron's role. Male's crimes. My statement. She studied me. And what will you say about me? The truth. What truth? I swallowed. That you were innocent. That you tried to save my brother. That you saved me. That I punished you for crimes you did not commit. Her eyes filled slowly. And the fake amnesia? I looked at the altar where I had once promised nothing worth keeping. I will say my wife survived by any means she had left. The first tear slipped down her cheek. I did not wipe it away. I had not earned that. Nera looked toward the chapel doors. Then back at me. I want to go home. The words struck through me. Home. I did not know which one she meant. Dravik Estate. Solenne House. Somewhere without my name on the gate. I forced myself to ask, where is home? She was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at the aisle where we had once walked out married and broken before the breaking even began. I don't know yet. The answer hurt, but it was honest. I nodded. Then I will take you wherever you want to decide. Her lashes lowered. For one fragile second, she let her forehead rest against my shoulder. Not forgiveness. Not surrender. Not love returned. Just exhaustion. Just breath. Just a woman alive in the arms of the man who had finally stopped demanding that survival look like devotion. Outside, the first cars arrived. Dima's men. Dr. Reeves' medical transport. The beginning of public truth. The world was about to learn what I had done. Good. Let them. Nera had lived too long inside silence. I carried her out of the chapel as the sun rose over the estate. And for the first time since our wedding day, I did not feel like I was taking her away from herself. I felt like I was carrying her toward the choice I should have given her before she ever wore my ring. At the car, she opened her eyes. Varo. I stopped. Her voice was barely more than breath. When this is over, do not ask me to remember why I loved you. My throat closed. She held my gaze. Show me why I should ever risk it again. Then she closed her eyes against my chest. And I understood the sentence for what it was. Not forgiveness. Not a promise. A door. Still closed, but no longer sealed.
Epilogue 6 months later. I walked into the old chapel wearing black. Not white. Never white again. The doors stood open to the morning, letting sunlight spill across the stone aisle where my life had once been traded in silk and silence. The white roses were gone. So were the black candles. The family crests. The guard standing close enough to remind a bride that treaties did not need her happiness to become binding. Today, the chapel smelled like lemon polish, fresh air, and the dark red roses I had chosen myself. Almost black. Mine. I paused at the entrance with my fingers wrapped around a small velvet box. Behind me, Leora whispered, "You can still change your mind." I looked over my shoulder. My cousin stood beneath the archway in a cream dress. Her bruises long-healed, her sharp mouth painted red, her eyes bright with tears she would deny if I mentioned them. I know. That was the difference. This time, I knew. The gate was open. My accounts were mine. My passport was in my desk. Not a safe. The Solenne estate had been cleaned of Aaron's men. Aaron himself locked away beneath enough testimony to bury his name for the rest of his life. Male Corvin's clinics had been stripped. His licenses destroyed. His allies exposed one by one until every hidden file became another nail in his polished coffin. Varo had kept his promise. Not with one grand gesture. With discipline. That had surprised me most. He did not beg every morning. He did not crowd me with flowers or apologies or dramatic speeches meant to make my forgiveness easier for him. He told the truth publicly. He gave statements that shamed him more than any enemy could have. He restored my name before every family that had whispered traitor behind my back. Then he stepped aside. For 3 months, I lived at the Solenne house. Not because I hated him. Because I needed to know who I was when I was not surviving his roof. Varo visited only when invited. The first time, he stood outside the garden gate in the rain with no guards visible and asked Leora if I would accept coffee. Not roses. Not diamonds. Coffee. Cinnamon. Exactly right. I drank it on the balcony while he stayed below and did not ask to come in. The second time, he brought Cain's last letter. The one Mail had hidden in the chapel infirmary. Varo did not read it to me. He placed it on the table and left because grief deserved privacy too. The third time, I found him in the Solenne kitchen with my aunt. Sleeves rolled. Silently learning how to knead bread because she had told him I used to love it warm with honey. He burned the first loaf. Leora laughed so hard she cried. I did not forgive him that day. But I laughed too. That frightened me more than anger ever had. Because anger was clean. Anger knew where to stand. Hope wandered. Hope touched locked doors and wondered whether they might open. Now I stood in the chapel where our marriage had first become a cage, holding both of our wedding rings in one velvet box. Leora touched my elbow. You are not proving anything by walking in there. I know. You do not owe him this. I know. You do not owe him yourself. I looked at her then. No. That is why I can choose. Her eyes filled. She nodded and stepped back. I walked down the aisle alone. That mattered. No uncle. No family head. No treaty escorting me toward a man. No guards lining the walls. No doctor with poisoned hands pretending concern. No husband waiting with hatred hidden behind duty. Just me. Nera Solenne Dravik. Still both. Still deciding what each name meant. Varo stood near the altar in a dark suit, his hands clasped in front of him, his face calm until he saw me. Then the calm broke. Not dramatically. Varo had learned not to make every feeling into a command. But his eyes changed, and I saw the man beneath the dawn. The man who had spent 6 months becoming careful, patient, honest enough to hurt himself before allowing another lie to touch me. He did not move toward me. He waited. I stopped a few feet away. The sunlight fell between us. Once, that space had been filled with vows neither of us understood. Today, it was filled with choice. You came. I said I would. I know. A faint smile touched my mouth. You still sound surprised when I keep promises. His face tightened with old pain. No. I sound grateful. That was Varo now. No defense first. No pride pretending not to bleed. Just truth. Even when it made him smaller. I opened the velvet box. His gaze dropped to the rings. His was plain gold, scratched faintly from years of wear before he took it off and left it beside my hospital bed. Mine was black diamond and gold. Beautiful in the way a locked gate could be beautiful. I had not worn it in 6 months. Varo had not asked me to. I thought about selling them. His mouth curved slightly. Leora suggested melting them. She suggested throwing yours into the sea. That sounds like Leora. She also suggested keeping the diamond and giving you the band. Generous. She was feeling merciful that day. A quiet breath passed between us. Almost laughter. Almost peace. Then the softness faded because some rooms demanded truth before they allowed anything else to grow. I don't want the old marriage. Varo's expression sobered. Neither do I. I don't want to go back to that house as the woman who waits behind closed doors. You won't. I don't want guards reporting my movements. They answer to you or they leave. I don't want doctors chosen by family. Dr. Reeve has already threatened to personally haunt me if I try. I almost smiled. Then I looked down at the rings again. I don't want a husband who loves me only because guilt taught him what loss feels like. Varo went still. There it was. The deepest fear. Mine and his. For a while, he said nothing. Outside, wind moved through the dark roses, stirring their petals against the chapel steps. When Varo finally spoke, his voice was low. I did not know how to love you when love would have been easy. My throat tightened. I know. I learned too late. Yes. I cannot undo that. No, he swallowed. But guilt did not teach me that I love you. Nera. His eyes held mine. Guilt taught me that loving you does not entitle me to be loved back. The words entered quietly. No thunder. No dramatic break in the sky. Just a key turning somewhere inside me where I had not expected another door. Varo looked down at the rings, then back at me. I love you. I loved you badly before I understood it. I loved you with suspicion, control, distance, and pride. That was not love you could live inside. I know that now. My fingers tightened around the box. So what is it now? He stepped back. One full step, leaving more space between us. Not less. Now it is yours to accept. Refuse. Test. Question. Or walk away from. His voice roughened. And it remains love either way. For one dangerous second. I was back in the hospital. His ring beside my hand. His voice telling me I did not have to wear his name. I had thought then that freedom offered by him could only be another trap. But 6 months had passed. 6 months of open gates. 6 months of him waiting outside rooms he had once entered without asking. 6 months of him learning my cousin's laugh, my aunt's bread, my hatred of white roses, my love of black coffee with cinnamon, my nightmares, my silences, my anger when it returned without warning. 6 months of him never once asking when I would come home, only where I wanted him to stand. I lifted his ring from the box. Varo's breath changed. I heard it. My body still knew him. But now my pride did too. Give me your hand. He did. Slowly. Like he was afraid sudden movement would shatter the moment. I slid the ring onto his finger. His hand trembled. Varo Dravik still did not tremble for enemies. But he trembled for me now. Good. Let him remember I was not easy to hold. When the ring settled, he did not reach for mine. He waited. I looked at the black diamond. Then I removed it from the box and held it out to him. His eyes lifted to mine. Are you sure? No, a flash of pain crossed his face. But he nodded. I held his gaze. I am not sure forever. Varo. I am sure today. I am sure I want to try. I am sure I want a marriage that begins with truth instead of punishment. I am sure if you ever turn love into a cage again, I will walk out and not look back. His voice was unsteady. Then I will spend every day making sure the door stays open. I placed the ring in his palm. He did not take my hand until I offered it. That nearly broke me. I gave it to him. His fingers touched mine with the same careful reverence he had learned in the hospital. But now there was no audience. No machines. No blood-soaked panic between us. Only mourning. Only us. He slid the ring onto my finger. The weight was familiar. But it did not feel the same. Maybe because I was not the same woman. Maybe because this time, I had walked myself to the altar. Maybe because the man across from me knew the ring did not keep me. I did. Varo lifted my hand and paused. A question in his eyes. I answered by turning my fingers in his. Only then did he bend and press his mouth to my knuckles. Soft. Warm. Not claiming. Thanking. My chest ached. Come home with me, he whispered. The old fear stirred. So did something else. A quieter courage. I touched his cheek with my free hand. His eyes closed as if the contact itself hurt. No. He went still. I waited until his eyes opened. Then I smiled through the tears I refused to hide anymore. Come home with me. Understanding moved across his face slowly. Not the Dravik estate first. Not his house swallowing me again. The Solenne house. My garden. My aunt's burnt bread. Leora shouting insults from the kitchen. A bedroom where I could lock or unlock the door, because I wanted to, not because survival required it. A home where he would enter as guest, husband, and man still earning the right to stay. Varo's eyes filled. He did not look away. Yes. One word. No pride. No bargaining. Just yes. Outside the chapel, the roses moved in the wind like dark flames. We walked back down the aisle together. Not with his hand at my back guiding me. Not with mine trapped in his. Side by side. At the doors, I paused and looked once at the altar. I remembered the girl I had been there. The one in white. The one who had hoped in secret. The one who had learned too late that love without safety could become another kind of death. I wanted to tell her something. Not that everything would be easy. Not that the man beside her would never hurt her again. Life was not that clean. Love was not that safe. But I wanted to tell her she would survive. That one day she would stand in the same chapel wearing black, with her own name still alive in her mouth, and choose not because a treaty demanded it, not because a man owned her, not because fear left her no room to refuse, because choice returned, because truth returned, because she returned. Varo opened the chapel door and waited for me to step through first. Sunlight touched my face. Behind me, his voice came quietly. Nera. I looked back. He stood in the doorway, dark and beautiful and no longer allowed to be my darkness. Yes. His mouth trembled with the smallest smile. Thank you for remembering me. I thought of hospital lights. 2 bullets. A wedding ring beside my hand. The lie that had saved me. The truth that had freed me. Then I reached for him. No, thank me for choosing what comes next. He took my hand. And this time, when we walked into the morning, the gates were already open. And that was the story of Varo and Nera. A marriage built inside silence. A wife punished for a betrayal she never committed. A husband who learned the truth almost too late. Nera did not forget him because she was weak. She forgot him because, for a little while, forgetting was the only freedom she had left. And Varo's redemption was not in one apology, one rescue, or one grand promise. It was in the way he finally learned to open the doors he once closed. It was in the way he chose truth over pride, restraint over control, and love without ownership. Their love story was not perfect. It was wounded. It was rebuilt. And in the end, Nera did not return because she had nowhere else to go. She returned because the gates were open. And this time, the choice was hers. If this story touched your heart, let me know in the comments. Did Varo truly earn his second chance? Or would you have made him suffer longer? Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in the next story. Stay ruined.